Let's get this audio check. Let's get this audio check done real fast. It's normally pretty good. I haven't changed anything in the settings. You don't have any metal in your head, do you?
I've been accused of having rocks in my head.
Okay.
I think we're good on the metal.
So. Okay. All right. So I'm going to remove this from studio. All right. This is Tim.
Hey. Howdy.
Tyndall.
Tyndall.
Why am I so... I know a guy in India that I correspond with. And his name is Timothy Tridell or something.
Here's a quick backstory, which I think you'll appreciate. So I looked up my surname, my ancestors, and the Tyne River is in northern England. The people that settled that area took the surname Tyndale.
Okay.
And when they came to America, they Americanized the sound of it to Tyndall. But I'm like, you mean that dude that got burned at the stake for translating the Bible into English? Yeah. That was my forefathers? Tyndall. I want that dude's version. So
yeah, I've read the Tyndall Bible. I used to have copies of Bibles that were published by Tyndall House.
Yeah. Yep, that's my people.
Yep. So let me make some announcements first before I tell you why Tim is sitting in my studio right now. One of my studios. Well, man, I was so discouraged. One of my heroes, you guys know David Hatcher Childers was my hero. You know, I've got all his books. I've got everything he's written, even books not a part of the Lost City series. And yet still, his research is impeccable, but he signed that contract with Ancient Aliens. And I'm like, man, hurt my heart. So while I still promote his earlier material, I can't stand behind him anymore. And you know what? I've always spoken highly of David Icke. He woke me up in the 90s. But is he just fishing for material? What's going on? I'm going to address this on X, and I know people are going to be sending my comments to him, but I am not cool with the fact that he just interviewed Lisa Harrison, who was implicated in that Lilu scam. A lot of you don't know what I'm talking about, but you know that Dawn is a member of the Unfuckers group. That group came out of the older Lisa Harrison group because they started doing something with a laptop. And they were pretending to channel a deity or a being called Lilu. Man, there were suicides behind this. There were people who really got distraught behind this. Lisa Harrison was in the middle of that, and Lisa Harrison's IT guy for that whole scam was Darius J. Wright. This is why you guys keep asking me about this dude, Darius. What do you think about Darius? I think he's a grifter. And the whole OBE stories he tells everybody is nothing but adult fantasy. It's stuff he freestyles and makes up, and he's got all these people believing in this shit. I cannot believe that David Icke gave them a platform. You know what? Totally discouraged. Another hero I got to mark off my list. Yeah, man. You would think that some of these mega giant channels would vet and find out what's really, they're not doing the Lilu scam anymore, but they did in the past, and there's a lot of people that can tell you about it. Yeah, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Whole truther community full of grifters. But you're not going to get that in Archaix. DAC says Darius is fake. Yeah, you need to see the evidence, bro. He's a good storyteller. I did a breakdown on Darius J. Wright one time in the middle of a live video because people kept asking me about it. And I'm telling you, I said, I am a communicator. Communication is one of the things that I studied while I was in prison. Communication is, I've read the works of Cicero, and anyone who wants to be an effective communicator, you need to study on oratory. It's a 2,000-year-old text. It's still taught in colleges today. And one of the keys to knowing somebody's being very deceptive is when they're trying to give you a first-person narrative in the second or third person, and they switch up as if they're describing something they're seeing, and then they're describing it from a totally different perspective. We don't do that. Investigators catch people in lies doing that all the time. You can see when you're talking from personal experience, and then when you're just fantasizing. And he does that all the time. So David Icke has really... I'm discouraged now. I'm not writing him off. Maybe it's a mistake. But you interviewed Lisa Harrison? What's wrong with you? I couldn't even believe it. So we're not going to get that from Tim here because Tim came. Show him your arsenal. Show him what you brought. Tim came loaded. I don't even know. I do not know what's on these papers. But Tim has bought all the drives. He's read all my published books and ordered them. Tim has met with the Archaix team publicly at different like restaurants, and we went to the movies together. What, 2 weeks ago?
Last weekend.
Yeah. We went and watched one of the most ridiculous movies in the world, but I loved it. It was good. It was a pattern break for me because I don't engage in that type of behavior. It was Wolverine and Deadpool.
That's right.
I didn't care about the special effects. CGI does not impress me. I don't care about none of that. But I laughed through the whole movie because Deadpool must be my alter ego. He is a cynical, sarcastic SOB. So it was great.
Yep.
It was great. So glad to have you in here, Tim.
Yeah.
Tim is the first. You're the first. He's the very first.
Ooh.
I told you guys I'm about to go hard on these live interviews. I got a whole list. I still got more people to contact. I still haven't contacted two that I haven't contacted that I want real bad is my lunch break, because one of his presentations falls perfectly in line with the Phoenix phenomenon data. Absolutely 100% correlate here. Shocked me when I saw it. Two, Roger of Mud Fossil. He's really hard to contact. I keep finding one email didn't even work. So Roger of Mud Fossil, I'll be reaching out to him. I want him on the channel talking about the things he's discovered. And there's a long list of others that they've communicated to me, but I haven't been able to respond. But I already have a dozen that you guys know tomorrow it's going down. Tomorrow, Paul Cook, Autodidactic, Campbell Purvis, and Martin Leakey, Marticus Maximus.
Oh, yeah.
All four of us will be chopping it up live on Archaix. So this is just the beginning. Tim is the beginning. And I've got some astrologers coming on. You guys know I've been a critic, but I'm just broadening my horizons. There are people who can bring value to the community. And because I'm a simulationist, I understand everything is constructual. And if it's constructual, then astrology must have some truth to it, or so many people wouldn't be, believing in that paradigm. I just haven't seen it. So I'm all for being educated. But yeah, I think that's all my announcements for now. I got this new coffee mug, and man, I can't wait to use it. I gotta wait till it's empty.
Coming soon.
So, without further ado, Tim, you want to introduce yourself to the community? Just a general introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a million for having me on, Jason.
Yeah, man.
Jason has changed my life massively. I discovered him here just about a couple of years ago now, and right from the start, I'm like, holy crap, this guy is awake and tying everything together in new and just life transformative ways. And I'm not saying that to kiss his ass. He knows that, but that's just my truth, having been through so many different versions of truth seeking, spirituality, improvement, and all these other things. And there's so many facets to what Jason has brought to my life and to the community out here in YouTube and so many other areas. I am a Houston native. I love the fact that he rocked that from the beginning. We're just a few years apart in age. And so having that common bond was even more awesome. A quick story. Jason, of course, loves the cool t-shirts, and he's encouraged me, to rock mine as a let's just say maturing adult man in some aspects. But as Jason talks about the reset and how everything goes back to the 6,000 year cycles, having accepted the invitation to come on here with him today, I thought it'd only be appropriate to wear the same shirt that I wore to Jason's very first ever meetup. And Jason may or may not remember this, but I was actually sitting, and it's still on his YouTube channel, where I was sitting right there in the front and center, and I was the first one to get my hand up with questions, and the first words out of Jason's mouth were, "Man, I love your t-shirt." And so that just really was super powerful for me. These are words of Thomas Jefferson, by the way. Freedom, yeah, don't ask permission, bear arms.
I just wore that shirt the other day.
Yeah, I got you another version. I looked everywhere for the same flag, but yes, same exact expression with it. Yeah, another flag, another American flag. Yeah, love it. I've been to 4 meetups, a minimum of 4, several different get-togethers that Dawn and Jason and some other folks have put together in the Houston community. I love it so much. If you guys out there listening or watching have not yet been to a meetup, His very first one was in Fort Worth. And I met people from all over the country and all over the world. And even as life-changing as Jason's material was and continues to be, the fellowship with the other errants that I shared was just as transformative. And there's
Garden Goddess was there.
Garden Goddess, hey there.
I remember her.
What's up?
She was in Fort Worth.
Yeah. I got some of my people, Kentucky Kelly and Trudy, and so many of these other people, Don Lovato. I put the word out to several people and a few borderline folks I know that are somewhat awake. We'll see how they digest some of what comes on today. But, I just share the truth as I've seen it so far, and it continues to evolve and grow. That's one thing I have really come to respect and appreciate about Jason is he's willing to update his position and his beliefs based upon new material. And I think that's letting go of the pride and ego and, just trying to defend his position. It continues to teach me of the many, many life-changing lessons I've picked up through Archaix and Jason over the last couple of years now has been the continued teaching of applying critical thinking. And that's something that's been so completely removed, not just from our school system, but from our society. And that's one of the greatest sort of unsung values that you bring, Jason.
Thank you, man.
To so many of us.
I want to address real quick. Hey, guys, just so you'll know, and not accuse any of my moderators, I am the one that just booted Kim Erickson. What you don't know going on behind the scenes, because I deal with this on a daily basis, is you guys know Archaix is attacked. And because my moderators do such a good job on a daily basis, even not during the lives, but even going through the comments when we're not doing the live, it's the attacks have become more and more sophisticated, and a lot of them are bot attacks. And the reason I know this is because somebody is writing a program and you can see the formula in the comments. And now they've switched it up to, Jason, I've been listening to you for a long time, but, and then they'll throw a negative in there. I've seen hundreds of these in the last 2 weeks, and it's from account. You see, contrary to other channels, you guys know I go through my comment section. I'm always answering comments. So when I see a whole bunch of new accounts that I've never seen before, people who have never made comments, and they're all telling me they've been on my channel for a long time, and then they say, but, and they give me some scathing comment or some derogatory statement, yeah, it's a bot. Or if it's not a bot, then it's a paid agent. So believe me, I have thousands of people blocked from Archaix, and I'm still growing daily. That doesn't even bother me. When I see comments like that, I'll give them a shot. But she hit me about 4 or 5 times right here, so I just got rid of her. Done.
Watch that butt.
Yep.
Like when a person says, "I'm not racist, but."
Yeah. Well, it's a new formula. It's a formula to establish, to neutralize me. Hey, Jason, I've been listening to you for 2 years, but the new attacks against Billy Carson are really turning me off, and I'm about to leave your channel. Okay, well, you know what? Most people don't address a negative. Most people just go. So it's really agenda driven if you're to sit there and unleash it, because especially if I've never seen you before. Just go, leave. So back to sorry for the interruption, but people were asking about her.
Love
them. Sunshine, yeah. Kim jacked my nerve. Yeah, it's probably not even a real person. Yeah, she laid 3 or 4 comments just so she could start introducing her negativity. Get out of here, Billy Carson people. Get out of here, Ancient Aliens people. Yeah, man, get out of here. What's the other group? Oh, we got Billy Carson,
Graham Hancock.
Oh yeah. All the
best buddy.
He doesn't have a platform. He's just Graham Hancock, really.
Right.
I guess he kind of does. Isn't it called Ancient Apocalypse?
Yeah. He's Gaia. Of course.
Oh yeah, get out of here, Gaia people.
Galactic Federation fans, adult fairy tale fantasy.
I'm about to publish a Archaix. What is it? Okay, it's not a manifesto and it's not a statement of facts. I have one on archaix.com. I can't remember the name of it. It's mission statement. Yeah. Mission statement. I'm about to publish a Archaix mission statement to be put on all the Facebook groups, to be put on X, on Instagram, and to be put on YouTube and my website. And the mission statement is to properly educate people who have been deceived by Gaia. I'm gonna name them all. Name all these old. Yeah, my mission statement. It's gonna get famous. I promise you.
What is it? It's 2024. It's too late to be nice.
Yeah, too late to be polite.
That's right. That's right. Dag nabbit.
So
yeah.
Dag nabbit. Waters above crypto. On Tiger Turtle's comment right here. I'm not ignoring him. I've been so busy going in different directions. I listened to the clip the other day. He talked about the Phoenix phenomenon, and I understand his recalcitrance. He never said anything derogatory, but he's recalcitrant, which I understand because he has not had the time to go through 100 videos and read 3 published books and go through 200 of my posted articles. I get it. The Phoenix phenomenon is very complex. Very few people have had that time. So I don't know what kind of questions Tim has, but we're going to go ahead and start off right now with question number 1. And this is from an Archaix veteran. So I have no idea what I'm walking into here.
Well, thanks again, Jason. As a lot of you guys know that follow Jason, he makes it his sort of stated practice to never be told the questions that are going to be asked of him before a live video like this. So I held true to that, and he did not ask to see him, and I didn't show him to him. So having been part of a number of your events, I'm going to share a couple of different themes, and please feel free to riff as long as you want on any one of these topics, because your sidebar side trails are some of the most entertaining and informative of all. So
cool.
I'll start with a little theme here. Okay, so Jason, you mentioned that the Anunnaki and the Nephilim disappeared with the Great Flood of 2239 BC, but yet the Greeks were at war with Atlantis in about 13th century BC. So were these not one and the same?
Okay. We are mixing in 2 entirely different paradigms. First of all, the term Atlantis does not enter the historical record until Plato. Plato said he heard it from Solon, but Solon wasn't alive during Plato's day. So we have a filter here. We have Solon had to have passed it on to somebody else who had passed it on to somebody else who finally it got into Plato's possession. So when it comes to the story of Atlantis, we have some problems because of the filters. Solon's not the first is the origin of the story at all. Solon says he heard it from the Egyptian priests of Sais, but the Egyptian priests of Sais, they weren't the originators of the story either, because they said that's the translation of a pillar in Egypt and temple. And they were translating the pillar, telling Solon what they thought it said. The problem with this scenario is Solon visited Egypt after the 27th dynasty. The Egypt of the textbooks was already gone. It was already gone. All the dynasties were over. Academics have already published over and over and over that the ancient hieroglyphs weren't even translatable in the 9th, 8th, and 7th century. And we know why in Archaix, because the Great Mediterranean Dark Age, everything plummeted. Remember, the Phoenix phenomenons that destroyed that part of the world changed writing. Minoan linear A, after a Phoenix phenomenon, became linear B. After that, Phoenix, it became Phoenician alphabet. It became something totally different each time. Atlantis went through way too many filters. So the association of Atlantis, which we basically have in the 4th century BC, the story of the Atlantean destruction, I'm not understanding. Is it your belief that Atlantis was giants? They have anything to do with the Nephilim?
No, that was just in the same. And I pulled some of these out of Chronicon, where you talk about the same yearly mark.
Because Anuna are before the flood.
That's right.
Anunnaki is the Babylonian term after the cataclysm of the flood that the scribes called the Anuna, because it's really Anuna of Ki. It's really the Anuna of the earth.
Right.
The Anuna of Ki. So Anunnaki. But I need to read this. Since we are in a no.
Well, this is where I pulled that one from.
Okay, you mentioned the Anunnaki and Nephilim disappeared with the Great Flood. Okay, this is the Judeo-Christian, tradition that. But actually, the Anuna did disappear before the flood. They vanished before the flood. They knew it was coming.
So if I could follow up with that briefly, so you reported, as you just said, that they did disappear. Now, do you believe that they retreated inner Earth to lay low? Do you believe they're still potentially running things?
Oh, excellent. This ties in with the historical record. There is one. Okay, first of all, you guys are familiar with Derinkuyu, the underground city of Turkey. Are you familiar with how sophisticated it is? Did you know that the surface world could flood in Derinkuyu would still stay dry? This underground city of 19 levels of infrastructure has tunnel systems to the other 58 underground cities in Turkey. That's how many have been found, 59 of them.
Fascinating.
The air ducts allow air to be pulled in higher in the mountains of Turkey, whereas each city has these giant wells and cisterns that go far below to subterranean river systems. So any water flooding in from the surface would get channeled away from the habitations. And the air, the flowing water, actually pulls air in from miles and miles of these air ducts. Absolutely sophisticated. And yet we actually have a legend. And guess where it's from? Phrygia. Phrygia is ancient Turkey. Phrygia, the Frisians are the people who emerged after the Hittite Empire was collapsed by none other than the Sea Peoples Federation, the Atlanteans. They're the ones that destroyed the Hittites. This was the 13th century BC. But those 59 cities that have been found in Turkey, they date from before the flood. How do we know this? Because there's a legend attached to them. The legend says that before the flood, King Archaix, sounds familiar? King Archaix knew of an approaching disaster. So he had time to prepare and had his people build cities underground. And he took his people underground, and that's how they survived and later populated the area that we know of as Turkey and Armenia. This is a tradition that comports with the archaeology, and it's in the exact same area of the world. So Archaix would have been a memory, would have been a Greco-Phoenician memory of Anunnaki. And Anunnaki is nothing but a memory post-reset of a pre-reset culture called Anunna. Just like the Anunna by a different race was remembered after the cataclysm as the Westerners.
Yes.
Amuru.
Right.
In the Bible, they're called Amorites.
Because America, North America, is the true old world, opposite of what they teach, calling it the new world.
Whatever infrastructure was in North America is far more ancient than what we find on the surface world today in Asia, Africa, and Europe, and the entire Mediterranean. How do I know this? Because the coal seams. I have books and I have articles. You see all that right there? That's all from the 1800s. All those are Smithsonian reports and all kinds of American antiquarian deals of coal seams in North America. Coal seams in North America producing jewelry, vases, porcelains, statuary, and most of it's all 600 to 2,000 feet deep. Some places like Heavener, Oklahoma, they have found streets of obsidian bricks and walls 2 miles below the surface of the earth.
Right. And they don't let them report those anymore.
Not
Otherwise,
anymore.
The Smithsonian will come shut them down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Old companies don't report anything anymore for that purpose.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want their operations shut down.
That's right. So they got to hide that true historical evidence.
Isn't that weird? All I did was move my mouse, and that happened. It's crazy.
Cool.
So when it comes to Atlantis and when it comes to the Anunnaki, we're talking about 1,000 years of difference in time, because the 13th century was 1,000 years after the Great Flood.
Right. Yeah.
So we're talking, the Atlanteans were actually Amuru, because it was after the Sea Peoples Federation invaded that we had this massive Phoenician presence come into the Mediterranean. This is where the Bible, where the introduction of the Bible, this is the first time the Philistines are found in the biblical narrative. It's during the period of the judges. And remember, the common denominator about the Philistines, it says when the Israelites left in 1447, they left during the 10 plagues period. The doom shape appeared in the sky. The Israelites that went by land, not the two groups that went by sea, led by Cecrops and led by Danaeus, who became the Tuatha Danann, and the ancient Greeks, Cecrops. But a third group, the group that you're familiar with in the Old Testament, are the Israelites that left Egypt by land. And when they did, when they went around, they had to go around a place called Philistia. Philistia, the land of the Philistines were Sea People's Federation people. Among them were the giants. It says the sons of Anak were tall, and the Israelites looked like grasshoppers to them. And as the Israelites made war against different areas in the valley of Rephaim, the valley of the giants, many of the Anakim giants, Anakim being the same root words as in Anak, is the same root words in Anunnaki. Right. So these giants fled in the Old Testament is very specific. The giants fled to Philistia, where they had family, meaning among these Philistines were giants. And in the books of the Chronicles of the Kings and the books of Numbers, we find out that Goliath was 9 foot 9 inches tall, but he had a son that was even taller who had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. And he had 2 other sons. There were 3 sons of Goliath, and they were all giants. This is why David did not pick up 1 stone. David had faith in the story that 1 stone is all he needed to fell Goliath. But in the story, it says he picked up 4 smooth, polished stones. And it's never explained why he needed the 4 stones until several chapters later. You find out that once Goliath was dead, his 3 sons took over the Philistine armies. So those 3 stones were just in case his sons were going to rise up right there when his father died. A lot of these little hints are all throughout Scripture.
Yeah, and one of the things I also love about you, Jason, is how you break down the etymology of words. That's always been a fascinating thing for me. I actually won the spelling bee when I was a kid. So that's sort of it's sort of in my DNA a little bit. But like the term Philistine, used today, it's used sort of as a slight to talk about somebody who's unsophisticated, right? Or dumb, rough around the edges. Not dissimilar maybe to like the term barbarians, right? Somebody less than.
Oh, no. Do you know what barbarian means?
Right. Go ahead.
You know what it means?
Well, they try to say it's the non-Christians, the pagans, right?
I get it. Mm-hmm. It means bearded warriors. Just like in northern Italy, the Europoid Caucasian stock peoples come out of what are called the Lombards. Yeah, the Lombards actually means the long beards,
as in Vince Lombardi.
And in the Roman reliefs, pictures of the Lombards look identical to the Anunnaki of the Babylonian reliefs. Remember, I'm always telling you, all the gods, they're always bearded white guys.
Right.
This is why the Sumerians used alabaster, because it's the only thing they could find in the Euphrates-Tigris Valley that would give them a statue that was white. That's why they used the mineral lapis lazuli, because it's the only thing they could find in the Tigris-Euphrates basin, which has no mountains, to represent on a statue blue eyes. They put lapis lazuli in the eyes. And in every single representation of Anunna or Anunnaki or gods, Enlil, and Ea, Enki, it doesn't matter. Every representation, they're a tall guy with a long beard. That's all they are.
And high technology, of course.
Yeah, but so do we. I mean, we have the same technology. This is what we have. We have a post-reset society, indigenous Neolithic thinking people who came into contact with the technologically advanced infrastructure before the flood. It was 12 centuries before the flood.
Yeah, and I sit there and think about that, Jason. Like, for instance, any group of people that, for instance, say would be able to retreat to a safe place, these underground bunkers, for instance, being built, these DUMBs, and have their whole infrastructure of cell phones, smartphones, and able to communicate with them towards a people like we are in today that have everything wiped out. If all grocery stores were wiped out, if all technology was wiped out, all electricity was wiped out, not only would we be infantile, but most people don't even have a clue about how to hunt, fish, farm, and sustain themselves like primitive people. So talk about coming in and being able to dominate a group of people in society. Those people would be like gods.
Yeah, okay. Well, check this out. In retrospect, that's how we think today. When an advanced civilization would go and come into contact, and we would dominate over them, like we did in World War II among the Pacific Islanders.
Right.
But that's not what the legends say. That's not what the stories of Boquica say in South America and Central America. Viracocha, Quetzalcoatl, the ancient Americans actually saw these tall Caucasian bearded individuals as benefactors. The Sumerians never said anything bad about the original Anuna. They were looked at as benefactors because they taught them canal work, cereals, agriculture. They taught them shepherding. They taught them all the things that pulled them out of Neolithic hunter-gatherer mindset and living. They were no longer required to live in huts and reeds and in caves. They were taught urban planning, and in the 35th century BC, which is when, in the biblical narrative, we have Enoch appearing and giving testimony against the Watchers. The Watchers appeared, and the testimony he gave was, hey, man, you need to slow down because you're teaching all these people all these things. And in the Judeo-Christian version, we have almost the exact opposite of the truth. Because in the ancient records, they were viewed of as benefactors, and when they left, the local people were counting the days until their return. This is the origin of all the religions that claim that a god is returning to this world. This is the origins of Quetzalcoatl, Viracocha, Pacalvotan, Boquica, Varuna. There's so many ancient legends about a god who was here, did all kinds of good things, left, and is coming back. And the ultimate origin for all of these angel-type religions is literally the actual historical story of the appearance of the Anuna after the world was destroyed. And they appeared and they helped humanity. This is also the story of Mother Shipton, who tells us what's going to happen in the future after the sky dragon destroys the world, and how people are going to come up from underground, exit a mountain, and they're going to be wearing shiny suits. They're going to come out and they're going to re-educate the world and teach everybody how to plant and live. This is what Mother Shipton said. She's telling us what's going to happen in the future, what's already been documented in the past. It's amazing. This comes from an illiterate witch 540 years ago.
Yeah, fascinating breakdown of that in Jason's book, Nostradamus and the Planets of the Apocalypse. I got the physical version. That's also on, of course, your jump drive that you sell with so much information. You could spend a lifetime just on that one alone, the amount of data that's in there. So you've talked about, Jason, as the Anuna being allied with certain people of, let's say, Northern Europe, the Germanic peoples, and then the Agigi, who allied with other groups of people, and they've been at odds with each other for not being sheltered during a cataclysm. How do you see that playing out in the future? And if I could add as an adjunct to that, do you see them, the Agigi, being removed from their place of power?
You're going to need to break that question down more. It's too much to unpack.
That is a lot.
So break that down the first tenet.
Okay, so the Anuna being allied with the people of Northern Europe.
Okay. I'm gonna have to clarify. The Anuna are not allied with the people of Northern Europe. Okay. The people of Northern Europe are the blood of the Anuna. I'm telling you now that basically the white race is descended from the very people that all the Babylonians were writing histories about. And when you read anything in the Babylonian cuneiform that talks about Anunnaki, this is just a primitive frame of reference for a more ancient people referred to as the Anuna in the Sumerian records. And the Anuna were human. They were only made by gods by the scribes who wrote these things centuries later. But we're literally talking about white folks before the flood, helping out everybody after another destruction had just happened. There are two major destructions here. One of them is 12 centuries before the great flood of Noah. 1,200 years before the great flood of Noah, 1/3 of the entire world's population died, but it was by a different phenomenon. It wasn't the Phoenix. It was something totally different. It's the Nemesis X object. It has a totally different periodicity, 792 years. but it's intrinsically connected to the Anunna. And this is the exact year the Anunna came from underground. And in the Judeo-Christian version, the Book of Enoch, we have the Watchers descending from Mount Ardon. It's no different than Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado after a cataclysm in the future. After 2040 or 2046, whenever 2052, whenever whoever's underground in North America starts coming up, they'll be coming up from Cheyenne Mountain as one of their egress points, just one of them. And when they do, they're going to have automatic weapons. They're going to have all kinds. They'll have electricity. They'll have whatever their engineering and science departments have manufactured that's going to work best in the new environment. Because the world that's going to happen after Phoenix, after 2040 and 2046, is the old world from which all our traditions and myths come from. And that's the vapor canopy world. And under the vapor canopy world, it's going to be fundamentally different technologies. This is why I've said, guys, the whole wind turbine scam is just that. Solar panels are a scam. The reason governments are trying to get everybody on board with putting solar panels everywhere, and I've traveled the United States many times now in the past 2 years, these solar farms are everywhere. Wind turbine, you go through West Texas, you'll see thousands of them. Into New Mexico, into Arizona, Colorado, wind turbine farm, these giant towers with these. Listen, in 2040, when the vapor canopy comes back, there will be no wind under the high pressure vapor canopy. There's not going to be any sunlight. It's going to be ultraviolet light. You'll see the stars and the moon will be magnified. It'll be absolutely beautiful, but you're not going to see these things, and none of that technology will work. Those infrastructures will collapse. But in answer to your question,
yeah,
which one was it?
Well, basically, I wanted to dovetail this into the second half, if I could.
Okay. That was
if that's okay. So the Yagigi, who they've butted heads with, right? When will the Yagigi and their people?
Okay, this is going to require a whole nother video, but I'm going to tell you this right now.
Be removed.
The exact same social structure that we have today, with this Caucasian infrastructure that has literally built the Western world and introduced technologies. You have to understand, you can call me a racist, you can call me whatever, I don't care. But no one can ever take it from me that in the 1800s, the Japanese and the Chinese and the Koreans and the people of India were living a Neolithic lifestyle. They were living just like they were living 3,000 years ago, with almost absolutely no change. There is some type of genetic failsafe that retards development. Every time a genius emerges in China, the Chinese stamp it out. We have records of inventions from the Chinese that'll blow your mind. Earthquake prediction clocks, all kinds of amazing technologies that keep coming up. But as soon as that happens, it is the Chinese themselves, who are staunch traditionalists, who won't have it. They will not suffer their geniuses. India has the same problem. The Koreas do. All the Oriental and the Asiatic nations, they have this arrested development. Something has contaminated them. Something has deliberately been put into their gene pool to stamp out any of this type of imaginative creativity. It's happened over and over and over. In the 1800s, it was the United States Navy that went to China and basically threatened to bomb the hell Canada if they didn't open up to trade, because the United States was worried, because the Chinese was a huge asset to any European nation that was going to take it by force. They couldn't have the Germans or the Russians go over there and take it by force, because if they did, it would give an unfair. They would have all these resources, and the Chinese would not even have a chance to fight back. The United States government went to Japan. Navy ships lined up, and they says, we're going to cannonade Tokyo. We're going to cannonade if you don't open up to trade. And as soon as they opened up to trade, The Japanese genius was self-evident because the Japanese were able to take every technology introduced in Japan, not only micronize it, make it smaller, more efficient, better, and cheaper. The Japanese genius was to take pre-existing things and make them better. The Chinese were okay at it. The Chinese were really good at just mass producing stuff. But this is, every culture and every race has its place, it has its genius. But the Caucasians were the ones that were the only ones really invested with the spirit of exploration. They wanted to know everything about the world, and they went around colonizing and spreading all this deal. Caucasians are assimilationists. Other cultures are not. You need to research what assimilation is to understand the value that white society brings to the table. Yeah, assimilationists, the assimilationists are going to let you of another race, another culture come in and do this. This is ancient Israelite law. There are laws in the Old Testament that mandate that Israelites had to take in other people and then let them assimilate. But that's not what's happening in the UK. It's not what's happening in the United States. Other cultures are coming here and they're building their micro communities and they're staying the original culture they were. They're bringing their nations to the United States and to the UK. They're not assimilating. So, yeah, most people don't know the Prussians, the Burgundians, the Franks, the Lombards, the Huns, the Heruli, the Angles, the Saxons, the 10 main groups of Caucasian peoples. Yeah, the people of Pontus later become the Vikings, the Rus. They're all assimilationists. They're all assimilationists. That's what they do. They assimilate other cultures, and it replenishes the gene pool and all that. But they're also infrastructure creators and always have been. Always have been. So the reason I'm telling you all this is because before the flood, there was an aggressor group. And that aggressor group is a part of the Caucasian family, although they've distanced themselves from the rest of them. It's no different than what's happening today. There is a war against Westerners. There is a war against basically the white stock peoples of the world today. That war, the players on the field seem to be political systems, NGOs, corporations, militaries, ideologies. It doesn't matter, fascism, communism, nationalism. It doesn't matter. Yeah, WEF. All these are just players on the board. But there's one other culture in this world today that's funding all that. And they don't like being called white, although they are. They are. We don't have to name them. That's what Archaix TV is for.
Yeah, fascinating. Thank you, Jason.
That's who the Agii are today.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, check out Archaix TV. Seriously, people, to get the real, deep, serious truth on that. Okay. To dovetail a little bit on what you spoke to just now, can you speak to the connection of the ancient Maya to the Chinese, and also the finding of Caucasian remains in China?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at latest comments.
Yeah.
The first thing is North America West Coast, California area has always had a high concentration of Orientals for whatever reason. In 31 BC, there was a massive destruction. Phoenix phenomenon is the final date on an Olmec date stele, but the origin of the Olmecs is a mystery in itself. The reason it's a mystery is that Chinese scholars and Mesoamerican scholars are in agreement that the Olmecs pose a most intriguing connection between China and Mesoamerica, because Veracruz State, Oaxaca, that whole Yucatan Peninsula is absolutely packed with Chinese artifacts, jade artifacts. Even the facial structures of the early Olmecs were Oriental. They were indistinguishable. It's only later, when the Olmecs were basically practicing exogamy with locals, Native Americans, Mesoamericans, that there was an actual merging of the bloodlines and the culture. But this took centuries. It took centuries. But initially, the Olmecs appeared in Central America on the Pacific coast. Any Olmec scholar, Mesoamerican scholar, can verify this. The original Olmec cities were all on the Pacific. something induced them to leave the Pacific, cross the Yucatan jungles, and build their permanent cities in the Yucatan on the Atlantic side. So this is what's so fascinating about this is in the historical record at the exact same time the Olmec civilization appeared in the Americas, at the exact same time in the Chinese records, we have a civil war where the losers, the dynasty that collapsed because of a Phoenix phenomenon. Remember, Phoenix brought the mandate of heaven. Anytime the mandate of heaven was seen in the world, when the sun went dark for no reason and it wasn't the moon, the Chinese ordered their emperors to be executed. The emperor's families, retainers, army, everybody loyal to him were banished. This is Chinese history. And in the 12th century BC, the same time Atlantis was destroyed, in the 12th century BC, this is when we have 250,000 Chinese building fleets and disappearing from the Chinese Yangtze Valley area. They vanished. They never appeared anywhere in Vietnam, in the Koreas. They never appeared anywhere on the coast of Asia. They're gone. The only place they could have went is North America. In North America is where we find a high concentration of Chinese seals and Chinese artifacts in California. So, and all the way down that coast, Mexico and all there. So the Olmecs were Chinese. There's no doubt.
Fascinating. Most likely when California was its own independent island there.
Well, yeah, I mean, 400 years of Static in the Attic. That's another one I want on my channel.
Yes.
But Static in the Attic is, he showed maps like a year ago. Shocked me because I know 1626 was a Phoenix phenomenon date, and the maps prior to 1626 are very different than the maps after 1626. And the Phoenix is what does that. Phoenix changes topographical features, everything. I was shocked when I saw that on Static's channel.
Yeah.
But
no Great Lakes either.
Yeah, no Great Lakes. California was an independent island.
Yep. Yeah, fascinating.
It's crazy.
Beyond fascinating. I would love to see you two get together, you and Static. Okay. So let's see. Okay, shift gears here a little bit. You've talked about the inscriptions on the surface of the Great Pyramid. Do we have a record?
Did I finish that? Because there was a two-part question about the Olmecs, Chinese, and all that. What was the other part of that question?
The Caucasian remains in China.
Okay, that's a totally different issue there. Okay,
yeah.
So you have to understand the reason there are so many correlates between Mayan iconography and the ancient Shang dynasty Chinese is because of what I just told you about the Olmecs. Most of the Maya are the descendants. The Maya are the descendants of the amalgamation of Olmec Chinese people and Mesoamerican indigenous Indians. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
What came out of the absolute destruction of Veracruz State, the Yucatan, Alaxia, that whole central area, Ecuador, what came out of the Phoenix phenomenon in 31 BC, when there was a fiery red dragon seen over Egypt at the same time that there was a civil war in Rome, and Octavian's navy was fighting the navies of Queen Cleopatra of Egypt and Antony, her Roman lover. And at the same time the battle was going on, the sky dragon was seen here. In the Americas, everything was destroyed by earthquake, but so was Olympia, the cities of Greece, and it is still known in the encyclopedias that the worst series of earthquakes in all of Jerusalem's history was in 31 BC up until that point. Now, they've had worse since then, but up until 31 BC, the worst series of earthquakes to affect Palestine was right there in 31 BC. All this happened with a lot more that I'm not even telling you about right now. But this is when the Olmecs, their whole civilization was destroyed. The survivors of the Olmecs were amalgamated into the local, more populous indigenous Mesoamericans, the Native American Indians. Right. They're the ones that went in there, probably invaded, took the women and children, killed a bunch of the men. You know how this is how it's normally done. So they go in there, and sometimes they practice exogamy, which is the selection by trade of wives, and for the purpose of impregnating. So whatever happened with the Olmecs, they're gone. The Phoenix phenomenon erased their culture. The survivors were taken in, and a new culture emerged from a combination of the Olmec and the Mesoamerican. This new culture was the Maya.
Right.
That's what it was.
And then, of course, there was a mass disappearance of them.
That was the Phoenix too. We're talking about now. Now you're talking.
Right.
You're literally talking about 900 years later.
Right.
Yeah, I've got that documented too.
Yeah.
But
so fascinating.
So let's go to China, because he's asking about the Caucasian artifacts in China.
Right.
Listen, the Zhang dynasty, XIAN, the Zhang province of China is one of the most exclusive archaeological areas of the world. Exclusive meaning the Chinese aren't going to let you do anything there. I have black and white pictures I've shown on my channel of what planes in 1920s took pictures of those giant pyramids that are out there. The Chinese don't like the fact that their earliest traditions are about the Dragon Kings. Mm-hmm. This sounds really bad. And the Ancient Aliens franchise is always trying to convince people when they relate these things that the Dragon Kings is talking about the Anunnaki and talking about these ancient alien gods. And you know what? They're right and they're wrong. They're wrong that they're ancient aliens. They're wrong that they have anything to do with space. But they're absolutely right that the Dragon Kings are none other than the Anunnaki. Because in Chinese depictions and statuary, the Dragon Kings look just like what the Sumerians said the Anunnaki looked like. Tall white guys with long beards. To be dragon-faced means you could grow hair on your face. And this was the symbol in the 4th and 3rd millennium BC of noble blood. That's what Aryan means. Most people don't know this. Aryan means noble one. So this is the exact same reason why the pharaohs, after the Amuru departed, which they called the Hyksos, derogatory statement means shepherd king. When the Amuru pulled out of Egypt, the local indigenous people put their own pharaohs on the throne. What was the first thing the pharaohs did when they sat on a throne?
Wooden beards.
One, they held the shepherd's crook.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen all the pharaohs hold that shepherd's crook?
Right.
Yeah, it was derogatory to be a shepherd because the shepherds ruled over them. The Amuru, the Westerners, the Caucasians ruled over them. So they hated them. It was derogatory. But as soon as they pulled out, which is the story of the Exodus, the Israelites left. The Tuatha Danann left. The people of Cecrops that built Athens, which begins the Atlantis story of Plato, they all left. That's 14th century BC. 2 centuries later, Atlantis is destroyed after the Sea Peoples Federation. But the pharaohs are sitting on their dynastic thrones, and they're taking throne names based off prestigious Caucasian pharaohs centuries earlier. This is why the new Egypt, they're using all the old prestigious names. This is why you have a Ramesses II. This is why you have a Thutmose IV. This is what they did. It's the same thing popes do. When you see Pope Boniface III, it's because they're carrying on the prestige of the previous pope from centuries back. So the pharaohs have the shepherd's crook. They have the scepter. And what did they do? You hit it a minute ago.
The wooden beards. Right? They couldn't grow them.
They had their artisans make them elaborate gold wooden beards. Wooden beards with gold and silver on them. Because they can't grow facial hair. But to grow facial hair, that means you are dragon-faced. Dragon-faced means you are of noble blood, but it doesn't mean you're an alien. It means you are a human, and you are tall, and you are able to grow a beard. It's simple as that. Simple as that.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. And as you've said many times, Jason, they can't just come out straight with lies. They have to mix it in with truths. So as you said, the Anunnaki stories, but saying they came from space. So whenever you hear the narrative, look up, well, with some discernment, you know that actually means look down, look inner earth. People say, look outside of you all the time in society for so-and-so, this entertainer or this teacher or this musician or this sports person for the power, when really the power is within. Right? Awaken the immortal within. I just reread that book, only 49 pages, but probably the absolute most life-changing.
For a lot of this information, Robert Seifer is your go-to also. He's got some really good videos, and he's all over Twitter and X. Robert Seifer is always drawing attention to the redheaded mummies and the DNA tests that have been done showing on different crypts and tomb sites.
Mm-hmm.
As an anthropologist, Robert Seifer is an anomaly.
Mm-hmm.
He's truly an anomaly. I'll give him a shout out right now. I mean, I have you guys know I have problems with some of his stuff. I mean, I think he bought into the Atlantis narrative at one time. I think he's backed off of it. I think a lot of people have backed off of it since I started publishing my data sets. You don't even see a lot. I mean, I've even seen a change in the Ancient Aliens network. They seem to be in a transformative state right now.
It's like you've introduced these new or truths to the collective, out in the, the public knowledge and what have you. It continues to transform. It's amazing. Okay, so here's a little shift here, Jason. Do we have a record of Abraham's translations of the Giza texts on the surface of the Great Pyramid? You talk about the inscriptions, of course, the limestone casing blocks.
So where's it at?
Last question here.
I'm sorry, man, but I have explained before.
Mm-hmm.
I am not an audible learner. I just can't even. Once I see something and read it, I got it. You know what I mean? But it's listening to somebody else, it just goes in.
Sure.
Which one was
the
it?
last one? Bottom.
Do we have a record of Abraham's translations of the Giza text on the surface of the Great Pyramid? That is a deep question, and it took me an entire book to answer that question called Lost Scriptures of Giza. You've read it. Lost Scriptures of Giza, my very first published book, 2006. My central premise was that most of the ancient writings of the world came from the Great Pyramid. And Abraham was there. And I cite the papyrus. I cite the Egyptian traditions from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. I cite the Edfu text, which talk about the excavations. A stranger entered Egypt, and the stranger was known to have come from the land of the Philistines. And the Egyptian texts say that this stranger was 110 years old. This is amazing. This stranger knew the secrets of Thoth and understood the secret chamber in a structure that had the plans with numbers. That's the Great Pyramid. So he astonished Pharaoh's court, and he started a college, a priestly college in Egypt, where he started teaching, and all the priests took all this information from him, but he was an outsider. The ancient Egyptian traditions admit that their information came from a bearded stranger who came by way of the land of Philistia and taught them the secrets of Thoth, even though he wasn't Egyptian. Thoth, almost every book on Thoth will tell you he is the Egyptian version of Hermes. He is the Egyptian version of Enoch. That's who Thoth is. Scribe of the gods, messenger of the gods. He is the Mercury. These are all facets of Enoch. Enoch was the scribe, the translator, the architect. This is what Thoth was. So it amazed them. Well, in the book of Genesis, we have a correlate. Because in the book of Genesis, Abraham was 110 years old when he entered Egypt. So when you put the Egyptian traditions together, well, what we know about the book of Genesis, we have an amazing correlate. But even outside of that, in the Archaix research, I have published so many citations of different legends and traditions about Abram and Abraham and who he was in different cultures that had different names for him. And in almost every incident, he goes into Egypt and teaches all this divine information and leaves it there. And remember, the old traditions about Manu, from the Vedic traditions in the Puranic commentaries, we find that Manu, before the flood, was told to go hide all the ancient writings in the city of Sippar so that these writings would be preserved. Sippar is found in the Sumerian records as well. Sippar means books or containers of knowledge. That's what it means. After the cataclysm, the Great Pyramid of Giza was still remembered as Sippar, but it's a different culture with a different language saying it, so it became Saqqara. And after a period, after two or three centuries, then it became Saqqara. That's what's at Giza right there. Pyramids were built at Saqqara. Pyramids are containers of knowledge. They contain the plans with numbers. The Sumerian texts call them Ekur. What is Ekur? It is divine mountain. What's inside the Ekur? The Dingir, the knowledge of the gods. But the Ekur is where was hidden what was known as the Tablet of Destinies. The Tablet of Destinies in the Sumerian and Babylonian records is very clear. It is the past, the present, and the future. So we're talking about something of technological provenance, just like the Great Pyramid. The Great Pyramid could be a massive port to, it could literally be a massive port to something that gets inserted into the Great Pyramid so it can jack it up into the entire system. Because if this construct can be influenced by a mainframe somewhere, that mainframe can only be the Great Pyramid, because of the way it's built, the arithmetic, all the physics constants that are built in it, and the function that we know that it anciently had, as well as all the traditions that are attached to Giza and the Great Pyramid and Enoch. We have all the ideas here put together of a artifact from a technologically advanced world, specifically built out of stone materials, because all metals deteriorate. Stone materials that would allow it to survive a cataclysm so that a future civilization would be able to explore it, decode it, know what its function is, and either build one for themselves or repurpose that one. That's the whole story. That's the whole Archaix paradigm right there. That's what it is. So
your content on the Great Pyramid and how it's on the Axis Mundi, and a countdown clock and counting down to 2040 and 46 and everything, and brought a new question in my mind. The explosion that was correlated to happen, you can quote the year, I'm sure, but your thesis is that changed the protocols of AIX at that time. Could you speak to that, please?
Yeah, that's entirely what he's referring to is that those who have published and studied the King's Chamber and the Great Pyramid, it is very obvious to them that despite the hundreds of thousands of tons of pressure, even from the Davidson's chambers, relieving chambers, from the 1/3 of the structure that's still above the King's Chamber, massive amount of weight. Despite that weight and pressure, there was an explosion that lasted for maybe 1/10 of a second, but there was an explosion in the King's Chamber at one time in the distant past that pushed out all the stone on the ceiling, the floor, and the walls by 1 inch. So this it's my theory that was the initial purpose. Now, the pre-flood people, the engineers that were told that the Great Pyramid was going to serve a different purpose, maybe provide free energy out of hydrogen, maybe what, I don't know. I really don't know. But I believe that AIX that was observing all this was fooled, because as I've shown on my channel and in my books, the Great Pyramid has something no one else has ever brought to your attention. And that is this 138 protocol that's found in all these measurements. I've never seen it published anywhere until I found it looking at the original scientific measurements that are accepted by Egyptologists. Sir Flinders Petrie did these using a micrometer and using a rule, and he measured everything in and out, and he did it to disprove prior pyramid theories. And he did a good job disproving them, because the theories were correct, but their calendars were wrong. None of these men were chronologists, so they weren't working with an accurate history of the world either, so the measurements didn't add up. But in Chronicon, I have the accurate, and I can show it from many different species of arithmetic. I can show it from different dimensions of arithmetic. It comports in pi and phi, and it has so many coordinates sourced back with so much material. You guys seen it? Chronicon. It's huge. It's huge. Awesome. But those events in there match perfectly the rectilinear measurements inside the Great Pyramid. Therefore, I have to conclude that whoever built this structure did it to introduce something, or introduce a Trojan program, introduce something into this construct, into the holography. Because one thing Chronicon did for me, it let me understand that the purpose of the construct has something to do with Nemesis, Phoenix, dark satellite, and our moon. These 4 participants are the origins of almost all the ancient calendars in the world. Therefore, I have to conclude that we're in some type of simulated holography, and that the reason we're here is because, or we've probably done it multiple times, we're living out life sims as we're living through different epochs and periods, trying to see which biosphere is more survivable. We're running protocols, and you and I sitting in here, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, but our real selves, excuse me, outside this construct, this whole thing could have been 16 seconds. Time is entirely subjective. In here, it's drawn out linearly. We have to experience everything sequentially, so it feels like an hour is a long time. Feels like a day is a long time.
Kind of like in Genesis, it says to the Lord, 1,000 years is but a day.
Yeah, exactly. That could literally mean, because remember, we're made in the express image of God. And if God, 1,000 years equals as 1 day to the Lord, whatever, well, that just tells me that humans on the inside of the construct are made in the express image of humans on the outside of the construct. But on the outside of the construct, this whole experience that we are jacked into may only be a few minutes or a few hours, just long enough to where our avatars on the outside aren't affected in any way by us just being out of commission for a little while. Feels like we lived a whole lifetime when we really didn't. Because on the real world, outside this construct, time is a totally. Time might be absolutely normal. In here, it might be like a zip drive. You know what a zip drive does, right? Compresses all the files, but the files wouldn't feel compressed.
Yeah,
they wouldn't feel compressed.
Right.
They wouldn't know a difference, and that's called a time dilation, and it's entirely subjective. And you would never know. You would never know you were in a time dilation.
So, as a carryover of that,
can I interrupt you one time,
please.
real quick?
Yeah.
I'm out of coffee. I love this new coffee cup.
Benefactor, please.
Hold on. I'm really hoping I got some coffee on the way. Man, I love that cup. Look at that.
That is awesome.
Who thought of this, man? This is genius.
And Jason's cup collection is on point. This one too.
Man.
Awesome.
Oh, hell yeah.
Shells,
never
brass.
run out of bullets.
Love it.
Yeah, man. This is just genius.
Yes, it is.
I'm gonna get in so much trouble for that.
I know. I got your back, buddy. All right. Yeah. So, in some of your older videos, Jason, you speak a number of times about how when that explosion happened, that your, let's call it hypothesis, is that the protocol of the AIX was changed the.
Who the hell gave you that cup? I'm going to find out who gave you that cup.
I'm live right now. What are you doing?
Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we survived that so far. You break free, we died trying. Where was I? Yeah, so you hypothesize in a number of your older videos that when that explosion happened, it changed the protocol of the Phoenix to one of a benefactor to mankind. Could you speak to that? That's not written down. It just sort of made me think of that.
Reword that.
And it may not have been tied to that explosion. I don't think I've watched every single video, and I'm certainly not 100% on every fact you've ever shared by a long shot. But you mentioned that the Phoenix protocol was changed at some particular point to where it became sort of a leveler. It would level down the elites and their domination of mankind, and became a benefactor in a number of ways to the general population of mankind.
Okay, so this is why, and I'm open to discussion if other people have an alternate theory, but we have the original Sumerian fragments about the Appen. The Appen is the Phoenix. Everything described about the red dust that appears, darkens the sun. The Appen was so central and so feared in the ancient Near East mindset that the entirety of Babylonian astronomy was based off of it initially, until the knowledge was almost forgotten. But Babylonian astrology is called Mul-Appen, M-U-L.Appen. The Appen is the original Phoenix. It's the pin deity of the ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead. It's a PN. It's PN star, which is the PN is Phoenix, just like Appen is Phoenix. They're even described the same way. Mm-hmm. So the reason I'm mentioning this, we have very old references to Appen, the Pin deity, and we're even told that this initial thing that appears in the sky and kills the sun and eats the moon and turns the moon bloody red and rains red dust all over the world is in the Gnostic texts is called the Phoenix. It's literally named the Phoenix, and the Phoenix was to be a testimony against the Archons. Archons are lords of time. These are our calendars. So remember, when the calendars change and they manipulate, and they become so manipulated, we have a hard time following things. What happens with absolute consistency has never changed. What happens?
138
the 138 years. It doesn't matter if the year changed from 360 days to 365.24. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter the BC AD overlap, because there's no year zero. But so many people have made that mistake, and that's why all their calculations are off by 1 year. Trying to add a BC year to an AD year does not work. You can't do that. I show in Chronicon the overlap between the systems. You can't just add AD dates to BC dates. You're always going to be one off. There was no year zero. But the 138-year Phoenix phenomenon goes right through that, no problem. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. That's why Phoenix was the keeper of the calendar. I'm mentioning all that because 3895 BC, the destruction of our world by the Phoenix at the beginning of 1656 years, was so terrible that the survivors believed it was a new heavens and a new earth. This is Genesis chapter 1, 2, and 3. This is the Adam and Eve reset. And yet, the Phoenix was absolutely destructive. Then we have the building of the Great Pyramid. And all the traditions attached to it, it was to have the past, the present, and the future, all the physics constants, all the knowledge that a future civilization would need, because Enoch admitted in his own books that his own work was not for his generation, but for a generation in the last days. The traditions connecting to the Great Pyramid concern a structure that had no function for the immediate society, but a structure that was built to survive a known coming cataclysm, and that it would survive beyond that to a future generation who would be able to decipher it. So when you put all these things together, we do have a problem. If the Phoenix phenomenon already existed, and yet it was destroying the whole world, and then all of a sudden the pyramid's built, and then after that it doesn't destroy the whole world anymore. Now it destroys hemispheres or regions. It's highly selective about what it does now. Initially, it was still pretty powerful. 2239 BC, the Great Flood of Noah was never, that's the Judeo-Christian myth. The actual science, the actual anthropology shows that every single old Bronze Age civilization collapsed. I have the scientific reports. I have cited them. They were published by a multidisciplinary confederation of scientists, anthropologists, botanists. Everybody was involved. 1998, they met and published their research, and it was 2240 BC. That's 1 year off. That's a scientific bullseye. 2240 BC, the whole world died as far as civilization, but there was still survivors in pockets everywhere. There was widespread flooding, but not a worldwide flood. You understand the difference?
Right.
Massive. So 552 years later, we had another massive destruction called the Ogaigian Deluge. I have 5 videos about this. There's so much data. 1687 BC, the Ogaigian Deluge. Since then, it has weakened. The Phoenix phenomenon has totally weakened after that. I mean, we had it in 1967. We had 1411. We had it again in 12 BC. Had it again in 1273 BC. I've got them all documented, all the way to the destruction of Atlantis in 1135 BC, when the Tuatha invade the Furbolgs and take possession of Ireland in the Second Battle of Moytura at the Field of Towers. That's all Phoenix phenomenon dating. We have so many, but there never is power. Now it's like the Phoenix phenomenon has become hyper focused on certain areas. So I have theorized that it's the Great Pyramid was specifically designed to take over a cataclysm protocol that was already written in the field. The Phoenix phenomenon was already written in the field before the Great Pyramid was ever built. We know this because of 4309 BC and especially 3895 BC, which is year one of the Annus Mundi calendar, the Adam and Eve reset. So we already know the Phoenix phenomenon was written in the field. The traditions are older than the building of the Great Pyramid. So now the pyramid is built, but it's completely layered in 138 integral programming. It's everywhere. I've shown so many examples. Why? Why was that necessary? Unless you're trying to disrupt a pre-existing protocol or change it or influence it in some way. I have to say that it was a benefactor that did this. Why? Why? Because Phoenix phenomenon is terrible. It's terrible. And yet there was great deceit in the building of the Great Pyramid. Enoch never touched the Great Pyramid. But the story behind Enoch is that he ascended into heaven and he was no more. He exited the construct. Is an exit from the construct a leap of faith, or is it a educated guess that has data to back it up? Well, look at the apothegm of the Great Pyramid. The apothegm of the Great Pyramid is exactly 7,344 inches. It's 612 feet. What is the entire Archaix chronology? It's independent of the Great Pyramid. It has nothing to do with the Great Pyramid. It has everything to do with the 600-year Anunnaki timeline. The Anunna chronology began in 5239 BC. And it goes all the way to 1962 AD, where it stops. It's the final 600 years. But what is the idea attached to that calendar? It is that the original Anunna are now allowed to do their original plans in the world. They have always been stopped. Now there's no stopping them. How much has our world changed since 1962? What also happened in 1962? Ethics, morals, everything went straight down. 1962 began Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It is now the Anunna, subsurface under the world. It is now the Anunna, basically abduction of the daughters of men. It's Genesis 6 all over again. Has nothing to do with aliens and UFOs and ancient aliens, none of that. It has everything to do with somebody coming in and making agreements with the powers that be to conduct whatever experiments they want to conduct with the blessing of the surface world governments on the daughters of men. This is the alien abduction phenomenon. Everything you've been told is a lie. These aren't UFOs. These aren't things going into space. None of that shit. It's all a program that takes these females underground to laboratories. They get the test done. They get injected. They get injected with the little plants. Dr. Roger Lear has shown us many of those little plants. They are amazingly technologically sophisticated. They even burrow in the human body away from scalpels that are trying to dig them out. Yeah, and when you cut them open, as soon as in contact in air, they self-destruct. But Dr. Roger Lear learned that to cut them open in the exact body fluids of the person they're extracted from. When he did that, the membrane opens just fine, and it's a technologically advanced steel rod. So this is all from the underground. Has nothing to do. This is all, it was 1962, ended that calendar, but the timelines don't end until 2106, the return of the chief cornerstone. Well, now let's reintroduce the Great Pyramid. We got away from the Great Pyramid, but the measurements of the Great Pyramid bring us right back to another timeline. And remember, 1902, Phoenix phenomenon began the last days. How do we know? Because every single step of the Great Pyramid, 203 courses of stones, goes to 2105 AD. The chief cornerstone on the top gets placed, and it's now, what? 204 levels. 1902 plus 204 is the final year, 2106. But what does that cornerstone do? It creates the completion of 612 feet. What's 612 feet? 7,344 inches from 5239 BC to 2106. Why is that important? Because 7,344 is 2448 times 3. 2448 is the Old Testament number for Exodus. It is the number for a people who are in a land they do not belong to be removed from it. This is just one way of looking at it. There are many other ways what this same data can be shown. Hope that answered your question.
No notes on any of that. Love it, Jason. And of course, also being called the stone that the builders rejected.
Yeah.
Chief cornerstone coming back. I had a question I want to ask now that ties into that, because you talk about, the end of things in 2106, 2107, but then there's a delta or a gap from that to 2178, right? So what is going on with this 83-year delta?
I say super, first of all, 2106 to 2178, we need to talk about that before we move on any further.
Yep.
Okay. It's very important for you to understand 2106 AD is the return of the chief cornerstone. It is the absolute end of all human institutions, human governments, all that. When the chief cornerstone descends to fulfill the monument of man, those remaining on the surface in the world, those who remaining inside this construct will undergo basically lessons and teachings for 72 years. For 72 years, the great processional number till 2178, the next Phoenix phenomenon date. But it's not just any Phoenix phenomenon date. It's the Phoenix phenomenon. It is the epic, immortal number 2178. You guys have seen my Archaix challenge videos about 2178. There's no other number in the world like it. So it is the only number that will not collapse to zero. So chief cornerstone comes. This goes into like the prophecies in Daniel, which were actually stolen from far older Babylonian texts. Remember the statue of Nebuchadnezzar? Nebuchadnezzar was told he was the head of gold. That's Babylon. And then after that, it was the breast and upper arms of silver, which was Persia. The Persians would take over. They would become the ruling empire of the world. And then turn around after that, they would be followed by, the brass. It was, the brass of the Greeks. So this is Alexander of Macedon, the Macedonians, followed by the Ptolemies of Egypt. These are all Greek empires. So we have the gold, silver, and brass of Babylon, Persia, and the Greeks ruling the ancient world. And then these are human institutions, human governments. They would be followed by the two legs of iron. These are the two halves of the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire lasted the longest, 1,200. Well, actually, the monarchy from the 7 kings of Rome, the monarchy, the republic, and the empire was a total of 1,229 years. Why is this significant? I have another video that shows you that 1,229 appears everywhere in the historical record as concerns basically Israelite descended empires and peoples. Just like the Frankish annals, they lasted 1,229 years. Rome itself started with Romulus, the first king of Rome, 753 BC. It lasted 1,229 years till the 10 German nations of Europe came together and defeated Rome in the year 476. 476 AD was the 1,229th year. But 1229 BC, 1,229 years BC, is the fall of Troy. It is the 10th year of the Trojan War. Ilium is destroyed. Where do some of the descendants go? They go to Italia. Who do they become? The Romans. Over and over, we find this patterning throughout history. You need to find that video. One of my moderators knows which video I'm talking about. I'm showing the holography and how the entire construct is patterned in 1,229. It's amazing.
Absolutely fascinating.
It's amazing. I do want to see that real quick.
One of the many, what Jason was just speaking of is just one of the great many examples that that you've shared, Jason, about why we live in a simulation with these repetitions, just like in a computer program. Things repeat. You put something on loop.
Right.
Go to line 10. Anybody that's ever done computer coding, it will go back to the beginning. And you reset the program and it'll run again. It's fascinating. Friends of mine that are new to Jason's research, I will share. It's the equivalent of, if I'm looking at my computer screen, the people that I see on a movie or a video that are inside there, that's a simulation. That's not really happening. That's not really two people on a beach. It's a simulation.
That's right.
Right? A projection of them doing that. And can they leave that TV screen? No, they cannot. And so, in an essence, to an extent, we are in a computer simulation of so much of what continues to appear and reappear
absolutely
throughout these 6,000 year cycles. That was just mind blowing. And again, while Jason's pulling that up, I'll also speak to the fact of how he points to the very specific language, and especially in Genesis, where the people say, "Let us repopulate the earth." I know it's really tough to break loose of what perhaps many people were taught originally in Sunday school or whatever, that Adam was, the one and only first man. It's not saying that. It's saying, Adamu, right, is the first grouping of the people that came together in the Eden, or walled enclosure. And then when they left, where did they go? They went to be with the other people. So, when you dig deeper, you see these deeper truths, which have been mind-blowing.
Tell them what that date is.
4039. Well, that's pre that's pre the Adamic reset.
4039.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to me, guys. This is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
This is 4039 BC. In my Chronicon, I show you this is the appearance of the Agigi in our world. It is also the first year the moon. This is the capture of Luna. This is the year the moon appeared. This is the year the moon appeared. 4039 BC. Minus 1229 years.
Okay.
Watch. Where did we get to?
2106. Dang.
2106 is when that problem is going to be dealt with. What I mean is 1229. 1220. Most people don't know this unless you've watched one single video of mine that shows you who the Roman people are really descended from. This is amazing. It's been kept from most of the public. Most biblical scholars don't even know this. In my video, I show these ancient texts that tell you how the Edomites infiltrated early Roman society. How the Edomites were the ruling aristocracy of ancient Rome, which allows you to understand why Rome was so aggressive against the rest of European people, why they were so aggressive with it. It's amazing. It's amazing how all this unfolds. But we find that the very first year of the establishment of ancient Rome, which became the devouring wolf in the ancient world, Rome was 1,229 years until Rome was destroyed, when another Romulus was ruling the throne. Did you know that? The very first king of Rome was Romulus, 753 BC. 1,229 years later, it was 476 AD. When the Germans came and destroyed Rome, when another Romulus was on the throne. The beginning and the end. That 1,229 is amazing. I've showed it many times. What I just showed him was the first appearance of the moon, which is the symbol of the Agigi, which is the symbol of those who were sent here specifically to cause all kinds of retardation of human development, set back institutions, corrupt everything they touch, rule with an iron fist, deceivers. That's who they are. The Agigi. 1,000 from their first appearance at the capture of Luna, the first time the moon appeared, is 1,229 years minus 1,229 years minus 1,229 years, 5 times over to get to the year when they will be dealt with. Not by us. 2106 AD, the return of the chief cornerstone. That's it, guys. That's what I just showed. Is that there are many other exercises you can do with that number, 1229, and it always shows you who the participants are.
Mind blowing.
Yeah, it is mind blowing.
Felt like I just leveled up again umpteen times. Thank you, Jason. So speaking.
I didn't say the Germans were tone deaf. The Germans were never conquered by the Romans. I don't know who he's talking to. He might not be talking to me. But yeah, the closest thing to a Roman victory over the Germans was Teutoburg Forest, right? Teutoburg Forest, I believe. Yeah. But that wasn't even really the Germans.
Germans kept handing their asses to them, the Romans.
The 10th Legion of Rome were it's called the German Legion, but they were considered to be the giants because the Romans were 5'3", 5'4" on average, when 6'2" to 6'6" was the average Burgundian. You know what I mean? They're huge Germanic people. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they used them in the 10th Legion. The 10th Legion is the one that destroyed Jerusalem.
Fascinating. So you talk about the 7 kings. I'm going to tie that a little bit of theme that you just shared, because that 7 kings is, of course, throughout other places in history. But Jason, can you speak about the 7 kings of the Anunnaki who will return in 2052 to reign for 54 years, when all the liberties will be taken from mankind? Can you speak to that, please?
So we have what he's referring to is in the book of Revelation, we have after the 7 seals. The 7 seals have to be broken first. There are many things that I had said in a prior 7 seals video, like 2.5 years ago, I no longer hold to, because back then I was still using the Judeo-Christian programming. Now, understanding how this book of Revelation, which was written in Greek and is using all the symbols that are found in Genesis, which was originally a part of the Greek Septuagint. Now I understand these Greek filters, how the Olympiads are operating, and now how the Greek Pythian calendar has even been introduced for the whole COVID narrative, and now Apollo Helios. Listen, guys, my whole understanding has shifted. I now realize how poisonous the Judeo-Christian interpretation is, because it gets you to believe in all kinds of things that are patently untrue, such as the white horseman riding forth to conquer being the Antichrist. That's been a very popular interpretation for 100 years or longer, and it's completely untrue. As I've shown in my decode on the first seal, every bit of that in Greek basically tells us that the servants of Apollo, which are those, the Hippocratic Oath, the pharmaceutical companies, the servants of Apollo would attack the human family with a toxin. This is the breaking of the first seal. This is what the white horseman means when you break it down in Greek. And the second horseman has already begun. We're already seeing evidence of it now. But this is just the beginning. Just the beginning. The second seal didn't even begin its countdown until Apollo Pharmakia passed its crown, its corona, from the April 8th eclipse over to Apollo Helios. And Apollo Helios is going to bring fire and take peace from the earth.
Starting now with these Muslim knife
attacks. That's already happened, yeah. You have a video coming in, well, real soon, 2 of them. One with Rise Above in the UK. We're going to be talking about these things. And Barry and I, who's also from the UK, who's in charge of my Office project, listen, we're going to show clips, all kinds of things. Yeah, UK's going on. There's a lot of psyops. So these clips reveal that what we're being told isn't necessarily true. It's just like COVID. They're trying to get you to react. Mm-hmm. Both sides are being played by the same people. It's crazy.
Yeah. So to back up what you were speaking to about 5 minutes ago, when you pulled out the was it 4039 BC, when the moon and the Gigi appeared, you talked about the deception. Fake news is not new. It was fake news since the beginning.
Yeah.
That term just came into the sort of the public psyche. But it's always been about molding public perception and what people believe to be true in the actual history. But book burnings are not new. They're not a modern day phenomena to just Christianity or all these other groups tearing down statues in the name of racism and all these other things. I see those as just continued just ways to erase the real truths of history and the nature of our reality that continue to go on.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, I love how you bring that out. So I've heard you say, Jason, of course, the Phoenix coming May 15th or 16th of 2040, depending on where you are in the world. The shifting.
I could be wrong. It could be the 17th because my own listeners educated me that May 17th is the 138th day of the year. No, so
Nice.
I've always said the middle of May.
Good looking out there.
Yeah, I've always said the middle of May.
Right.
But in Archaix Academy, anybody in Archaix Academy who has seen the Phoenix breakdowns, you will have seen all the citations for the month of May now. Have you got that far?
No, I'm digging in, but I'm just drinking from a great big fire hose myself. So
get it.
It's fascinating though. I can't wait to dig deeper into that. I asked him about that before the video went live here today. Great stuff, Archaix Academy. So you do talk about, of course, the Phoenix coming back in May 2040. And then there's going to be a big shift, things in North America, big exodus of people. But the real sheet show is going to hit in 2046, right? And I've heard you say in the past, people really aren't going to want to be around
right
after that time. Can you speak to that and some of the things that you expect? And, everyone's got their own sort of free will or choices to make.
Right.
Do we want to be a part of this? Can you speak to what you foresee there and perhaps to be or not to be a part of that, if you would?
Okay, well, first of all, post 2040, I don't believe the internet's going to be a thing anymore. So that means I don't believe there's going to be telecommunications. The return of the vapor canopy, the middle of the month of May in 2040 is it's going to be more critical to our institutions and our infrastructure than it is our population. You have to understand, from the first seal to the 6th seal, the record is very clear that 1/4 of the entire world will die. That's not necessarily, we're looking at it from the wrong perspective. 2020 began the breaking of the first seal. 2044 ends the 6th seal. And if 1/4 of the world's population dies in that time, that's a long period of time. So we're not talking about a culling. We're not talking about a whole massive depopulation of the world. We're talking about a revelatory period. We're talking about a period where a lot of things are revealed during this time. Things don't get bad until after 2044. But everything right now is almost all psyop. Everything right now is just bringing you to that worry. Remember Arthur Schopenhauer and Seneca. Well, Arthur Schopenhauer cited Seneca, but remember Seneca. We suffer more in imagination than we do in reality, because we listen to these rumors and we get all wired up about it, and we watch these psyops and we watch all these things going on in the news and all that. But people on site, why do you think they're jailing people in the UK for sharing social media deals? Because what they're sharing is it's all a stage. They've even got lighting out there. They got all kinds of things. It's all staged to get the international community up in an uproar about what's going on in the UK. It's ridiculous. Don't get me wrong. Some of them look real convincing. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of guys in black hoods and all that. I mean, if the police aren't arresting you and you're Islamic and you're running through the streets of London in a huge crowd of people, why are you wearing black masks and black hoods? Why would you be scared of your identity being known? The police are letting you do all that. So it's just, there's a lot of stuff going on. I've watched so many clips in the past few days. It's amazing. So I deviated from your
2046. What do you foresee after that?
So the breaking of the seals has to be done before the events described in Revelation. This is the uncovering. This is where good and evil have equal play, and everybody can see what's going on. They can see the program. But with the sun darkening, turning black as sackcloth of hair, massive earthquake, people hiding. We're talking about the 6th seal describes not only the Phoenix phenomenon, But what the Phoenix phenomenon is going to do this time, it's going to end the technologically advanced infrastructure that we've relied on. There will be no more telecommunications. There's not going to be any more food services. You're going to be put back into your Neolithic micro communities. This is what it's describing, but it also begins a period of silence for about 8 years. This is what it does. 2040 to 2048 is an 8-year period. Again, we're still on the 8-year Pythian cycle. The Pythian cycle comes from the ancient Delphic oracle. This is what the Olympiad, the 4-year Olympiad happens, but every 8 years is a Pythian period. This is how these two calendars worked in tandem, and the Pythian calendar was begun in 582 BC because of the Phoenix phenomenon in 583. I've got all this documented. It's amazing that I wasn't even able to put all this together before, when I'm the one that made the discoveries about the Pythian calendar and found these old citations as to why the Pythian calendar changed and the year it changed. And I couldn't even believe it. I'd never put this together, that this is what our controllers are going by.
So if I could jump in with
Sure.
a pause, you just mentioned that year when the Pythian calendar changed. Of course, that ballpark is also when the Anno Domini calendar that we're on today was introduced to cover up the Phoenix primarily.
No.
Okay.
No.
Swing and a miss.
Okay. Let me show you on a calculator right here. Okay. 583 BC is when Thales of Miletus predicted that the sun would darken. He became one of the wise men of Greece. 583 BC, the sun did darken. Now, the establishment has covered that up, trying to say, oh, it's just an eclipse. But it wasn't an eclipse. No eclipse happened at that time. In 583 BC, a massive 5-year war was concluded when the armies of the Medes and the Lydians met on the field of battle and the sun turned black. Right. The monument of Yasilakaya has the whole thing there where the two kings are holding a black sun. That was the symbol for the truce, because they realized, well, the heavens have spoke. They must not favor this war, because if it would have been a lunar eclipse, one nation could have claimed that as an omen. If it would have been a solar eclipse, the other nation could have claimed that as a favorable omen. But because something else darkened the sun, the Phoenix phenomenon, every 138 years, because something else made the sun go black, they both concluded, this is new. Yeah, we weren't expecting this, and maybe we shouldn't be fighting. And none other than Nebuchadnezzar II was there at the ceremony that concluded peace on the monument of Yasilakaya. So 583 BC is when that happened. 582 is when the Delphic oracle introduced the new Pythian calendar. 582. 582 plus the calendar change. That's when that happened. That's 1,108 years. This is when the Roman Catholic Church, 526 AD, hid the Phoenix phenomenon, and they introduced what was called the Paschal period of 532 years, and they wrote the Paschal period in there, so all chronographers of the day, when they did calculations forward and backward in time, would use a 532 period instead of a 552. The Phoenix cycle.
Throw everybody
out. I didn't make that up. I quoted that straight out of the book. They specifically said this was done to do away with the 552-year calendar. And the only thing that we have ever been found in the historical record that had value that was 552 years is the Phoenix cycle,
right?
Which is 138 times 4,
right?
So 20. He asked me about 2046. So the seals, including the Phoenix phenomenon, this isn't high death toll. This isn't at all. It's fear programming. The seals are revealing the truth about our world to those who want to wake up. Errants.
Yeah.
Spiritual people all over the world who understand what we're going through is bullshit. But the seals are preparatory to real judgments that are going to happen to the world. It's during this period that 7 kings begin to rule. But because the dark satellite doesn't return till the year 2052, I don't believe it's going to get bad until after 2050. 2046 is bad because it's Nemesis X object, but it's not bad as far as armies and dominion and violence like that. It's bad because of catastrophic changes. It's going to change humans. First of all, 2040 introduces a vapor canopy. You have to study. I have videos on vapor canopy. I cite the scientific books on vapor canopy and the people that have actually done the test with hyperbaric chambers. But 2040 reintroduces vapor canopy because of all the volcanism. That's part of the Phoenix phenomenon. It's always volcanoes. Volcanism, ambient radiation, increased air pressure, ultraviolet light under the canopy, and the mesosphere taking all the water back from Antarctica and the Arctic. This is why we have maps of the 14th and 15th century of ice-free North Pole and South Pole. It's because recently that ice wasn't there. Why? Because it was in a vapor canopy. So this cycle that we go through over and over and over is very prevalent, but it's coming back. And when it comes back in 2040, we're going to have Antarctica emptied of its ice. It's going to melt rapidly and go right back into the sky, and it's going to fill what's already there, which is called a mesosphere. The mesosphere is just suspended tiny water droplets, but at one time it was like an ocean above. Well, at multiple times it was like an ocean.
Above.
It's a cycle. Water's above. Yeah, it's a cycle. And when these polar caps go, people can go in there and remap all these areas again, and they can live there for centuries until a flood happens. How does the flood happen? It's when the vapor canopy collapses. The only collapses that we have in recorded history are Phoenix phenomenon years. That's when they collapsed. So 2046 is going to introduce something new that has not happened during a vapor canopy that we have any evidence for in the entire historical record. And that what is new is Book of Revelation specifically states that the sun, the moon, the stars, and then those are objects. Now it switches over to phenomena. Excuse me.
Bless you.
It says the sun, the moon, and the stars, which are luminaries. Then it also adds the day and the night. These are not luminaries. The day and the night are phenomena. It is called the diurnal system. It is the idea that we are spinning on an axis that creates day and night, which is a lie. All motion is in the sky. It's not on the ground. We are not moving. But in Revelation, we have the sun, the moon, the stars, the day and the night are reduced by a third. How do you do that? When you take out 33.3% of the day, you no longer have a 24-hour day. It's 16 hours. When you take out 33.3% of the year, you no longer have 365.24 days. You have a 243-day year. When you take out 33.3% of the, what was it, the day? That was it, just the day in the year. When you remove that, what is it going to do to the human family? The vapor canopy has already introduced changes at the genetic level. Now the speeding up of time, which according to the prophetic eschatology is very specific. The reason it's done is to keep them from the evil to come. The reason it's done is because if the tribulation period was to last as the full period, no flesh would be saved. So it's done as an act of mercy. So people were able to not only endure it, because remember what vapor canopies do. Open cuts heal in seconds. Deep flesh wounds take minutes. The increase in pressure, ambient radiation, and the changes in the genome literally have people almost impossible to die. And this is what we have in Revelation. All these things happen. All these weird, terrible things happen. And what does it say? Nobody's dying. It even says that in there. People wish for death, but death won't. Death flees from them. Why? Because the increased pressure, the ambient radiation, the vapor canopy has people living living and healing themselves in real time as they're injured and as they're afflicted. It's terrible. This is also a good way of understanding why Cain was banished for the murder of Abel. It wasn't an accident. It could have never been an accident. In the ancient vapor canopy world, murdering somebody meant you had to work to do it. If they're healing so rapidly and the human physiology was so almost godlike under those conditions, then murder was not only a premeditated act, but even if you didn't succeed with the first 2 or 3 blows, it took you to do multiple things to kill somebody. So anyway, I went off on a tangent.
I feel like there's so many additional directions I could go just from that.
So if you want to know better the type of world we're talking about after 2046, you need to read 1st and 2nd Esdras in the Apocrypha. They were removed from the canon and put in the Apocrypha. They're very detailed about the tribulation period and how it's going to affect mothers having children, how it's going to affect children being raised, how it's going to affect the human body. It's all in there. It's in 1st and 2nd Esdras. And so it's not a pretty picture after 2046. This is a return of the Nemesis X object.
Mm-hmm. Well, that vapor canopy's coming back after the Phoenix, though, right? In 2040.
The vapor canopy will be here 6 years before Nemesis X returns.
Right. So everything's going to be in chaos, but level up several times over.
Actually, it's going to be 6 years of silence.
Okay.
You know, it's going to be, no more technology, except for small things like a steampunk society. Whatever local engineering you can put together and all that. But as far as the worldwide infrastructure, that's going to be dead after 2040.
Like the old analog technologies, like the steam engine is like a couple hundred or whatever years old now, but it's still used throughout the world, right? But there's this push for everything to be digital. Internet, even the landlines, that's all VoIP, that's all internet.
No, we're talking about the surface world. I am completely convinced that the underworld, which the U.S. Navy and other aspects of the military industrial complex are preparing, technology is going to survive just fine. Infrastructure, everything about the human condition, all that's going to be in. Everything is going to be done. Now, you and I aren't invited to that,
right?
But I'm just saying. Humanity has always survived through every single reset, every single one, because there are people in the construct among us who already know the very things I'm telling you now. There's no way I could have put all this together in a prison cell like I did, which is very well documented. Reading all these different books and putting all this together, if the information wasn't already well known to somebody else. I didn't just come up with it. I discovered it all. I put it all together, but we're still missing pieces, and those pieces are contained in underground libraries.
That's right. Yeah, nothing's ever lost. These library burnings, right, of Alexandria and all these others, they kept that information. They just took it from the masses. Of
course they did.
Right. It's fascinating. I know you've never been necessarily a prepper channel or any of that fear mongering. Stay out of fear, right? Stay in the emotion of what you want and take the action to have the life you want and be in your power. I love that.
I did not answer your question. I just thought about it.
Go ahead.
You asked about the 7 kings.
7 kings, yes.
So 2046 it gets bad, but it's after 2046 that we have the introduction of the 7 kings. But in my dark satellite chronology, that's not even going to happen until 2052. 2052 is the return of the dark satellite. The dark satellite is a prison of the stars. It's not a real object that's going through the sky. It's not an exoplanet. It's not a world that's going by. This is more like this. Don't crucify me for this, guys. But there's probably the best imaginative representation of the dark satellite. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Nice.
He nailed it. Superman 2, when the three Kryptonians are imprisoned in that glass satellite, that's probably the best representation. So in 2052, Jamie Robbins, you're correct. In 2052, independence is taken from the earth. In 2052, like Charles Burgoyne says in the 1880s in his book, Ancient Egypt, Light of the World, he explains that the dark satellite is a prison and that its occupants hate humanity, and that anytime the dark satellite is close, it can negatively affect our world. There is a calendar that has documented several appearances of the dark satellite. That calendar is the Mayan long count. It's amazing. On Bactans, that's when the Mayan long count actually documents the 394.5 year periodicity of the dark satellite. The dark satellite was here when something very unusual happened in the ancient world, and that also involves the Great Pyramid. What was unusual is that humanity was working together for a common cause. Then the dark satellite appeared, and the programming of our reality was altered to the point where all these people speaking one single language could not communicate with each other anymore. One slight programming alteration completely altered the fundament of each speech pattern. No one can understand each other, and this is how we have our origin of confusion. The architectural project of confusion has come down to us as the Tower of Babel story, which never happened in Babylon. But as I told you guys 3 or 4 years ago, the story is the story of northern Egypt and what happened before the flood, and it concerns the Great Pyramid. The Great Pyramid is the structure that was never finished. How do we know that? Who's the chief cornerstone?
Enoch.
Who's the chief cornerstone?
Enki.
Nope. Who is the chief cornerstone?
Abraham.
He's the stone the
builders
rejected.
Indeed.
That means the builders
Incomplete.
never finished the project.
That's why it's flat on top.
That's why it's flat on top. Apex. Those were good guesses, though.
I try. Good stuff. Thank you.
So,
yeah.
The Seven Kings return in 2052. How does Jason know that the controllers of our world have this already know all this and already put it together? I'm going to tell you how. Because the controllers are the ones that erected. They had the French Freemasons send the pieces of the Statue of Liberty to New York. New York Harbor. So they erected the Statue of Liberty on the Star Fort, whatever it was, over here in this. What's the name of that island?
Ellis Island.
Ellis Island.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we've always been told it's the Statue of Liberty. We've always been told it was a female. The Judeo-Christian interpretation would have you believe that that's Semiramis. I fell for it for a while too. That the Judeo-Christian deal, okay, that's Lady Columbia. Like Columbia Pictures, Universal Pictures, and all that. They show the goddess. Oh, they had you say, oh, okay, well, that's going to be, but it's not. There's nothing about that statue. The 7-point is Apollo Helios. I have shown you pictures of Apollo Helios on my channel. Apollo Helios had the corona of 7 spikes. When you're told what the Statue of Liberty is, it's easy to fall for it. But the statue is a lithic prophecy of the release of Apollo. That's a statue of Apollo, as Apollo Helios holding the torch. How do you get to the torch? There's a room at the top of the torch. How do you get there?
138 steps.
That's right. Nope, it's not 138. You're wrong.
Oh, okay.
But you are on the right track. You're absolutely on the right track. So to get to the top of the torch, you have to go through the arm. The arm is a circular staircase that goes up. Inside that arm is exactly 168 steps. At the bottom of the statue, Apollo has chain links connecting him to the earth. He is bound to the earth. But the chain links have been broken. This is eschatology. The statue is a type of spell in architecture. It was dedicated in the year 1884. 1884 plus the 168 steps to the torch is the year 2052. It's the exact same type of chronotecture I've showed you in Stonehenge. It's precisely the same type of chronotecture I've shown you with the last days beginning at the last Phoenix date of 1902. 1902 plus the return of the chief cornerstone. Oh, I see it. I need to plug this in real quick. Yeah. Why would it be going low?
Is it not plugged in the wall?
Man, it is plugged in. It's not supposed to be going
check
low.
The thing to the brick.
Ah, that's what it is. This isn't. That's not in right. There we go. No, it's not it. Why would my? Okay, so do I have the wrong thing plugged in?
Is your?
Oh, you know what? Would you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Real quick.
Yep.
Because this is what needs to change.
Sure.
You have to do it fast. That other laptop out there.
Yes.
It has its own.
Be right back.
It has its own. This is the wrong charger for this laptop. I need the other one. All right. Battery running low. We're going to try and save it real quick. Get out of here, AIX. I agree.
That's right. Trying to mess with you.
Yeah, it's just the wrong one. That's all.
There's the end of it.
Let's plug this one in. Glad it gave me a notification.
No doubt.
All right, let's plug this one in. It should light right on up.
That would have been a bad reset.
There it is.
There we go.
There we go. We're back.
Power. All right.
Okay. So
the steps leading to the torch.
So yeah, 1884, the Great Pyramid is not the Great Pyramid, but the Statue of Liberty is dedicated 168 steps to get to the torch. So the torch is the light of the Luciferians. This is their greatest achievement is now the opening of the dark satellite prison. In the book of Revelation, we have an angel goes to the bottomless pit with a key. He's given a key, meaning something happened to give him the power to do this. He goes to the bottomless pit and opens it up. And what comes up? Abaddon. Abaddon is the destroyer. But the revelation is very, very, very clear. The other name that Abaddon is known as is Apollyon. This is Apollo. So this is Apollo. Well, the first seal is Apollo Pharmakia. Right. Second seal is Apollo Helios. Mm-hmm. But chronotecture is very real. The Great Pyramid operates on the exact same principle. 1902 was the last Phoenix date. It began the last days. Mm-hmm. 1902 plus 204 years is the return of the chief cornerstone. The Great Pyramid is complete. It's the year 2106. Anno Domini. It is, Armageddon War. It's the war to end all wars. It ends all human institutions. But it's also the 204th level of the Great Pyramid, not just the 204th year. The Great Pyramid today is 203 courses of blocks. The 204th is the missing cornerstone. The Great Pyramid's four chief slopes are at 51 degrees. 4 slopes times 51 degrees is what?
4 slopes times 51 degrees, that'd be 204.
204. The Great Pyramid is always self-referencing. Mm-hmm. So
fascinating.
Let's see. Wow. All right. So anyway, so in 2052, Apollyon is released. The Abaddon, the destroyer, is released. How do we know? The book of Revelation is also self-referencing. It says, and there were 7 kings. One is yet to come. And man, I can't even remember the riddle. But it says there were 7 kings, and then it says, and then there was an 8th. And the 8th is of the 7. Well, the book of Revelation literally identifies the 7 Sumerian kings of the Sumerian king list from before the flood. This is the same Sumerian king list that I've showed you guys. The Ancient Aliens, Billy Carson, Disney version of history is absolutely wrong, because they're trying to convince you that these 7 kings each ruled 60,000 years. And it's so dumb. It is so comical, this Nickelodeon version of history, when the actual interpretation is very easy. Before the flood, only the days were counted. Even the Dutch Oerlin manuscript shows that the years were not counted before the flood. In the book of Genesis, yeah, don't get me singing that song. I will sing that song. Hey, that woman got down. The Shar song. I love it. So what we have is the Sumerian king list of 7 kings. We've actually found the prisms. It's a prism. It's a 8-sided artifact that has the histories of the 7 kings before the flood. It's amazing that we've made these discoveries. And it says these 7 kings ruled for 241,200 shars. And yet that's only 670 years, the same number of years mentioned by Nostradamus in relation to the phoenix. Because what ended the reign of the 8th king, as soon as the 8th king started his reign, the phoenix phenomenon caused the great flood in May of 2239 BC. So the book of Revelation is a continuation of what began in the beginning. So before the flood, which was ended by the phoenix, and the phoenix ended the reign of the 7 kings of the Anunnaki, now we have in the book of Revelation the return of the 8th king, because he was never given his chance to rule. That 8th king was Apollo. This begins 2052. 2052 also begins the testimony of 144,000 very unique souls who are going to be immune from everything the beast kingdom, the 7 kings, the false prophet, and Apollyon can throw at them. They are absolutely untouchable. They are immune, and they're able to give their testimonies out as to basically sharing with the world what they're going through. This is during the tribulation period, what is known as the 7 thunders and the 7 vials of God's wrath. These give their testimony until the year 2070, which is divisible by 138. The year 2070 basically marks the final year of those who are sealed with the Exodus seal, those who will be making their exodus in 2106.
Let him who is evil stay evil.
Yeah, let whom is evil be evil still. Let him who is good be good still. This is that's a prophecy in the book of Revelation, basically telling you when this happens, it's too late. It doesn't even matter what you do anymore, because you're either sealed or you're not. Now, the beast kingdom has their own seal, but that's so you can enjoy the material benefits of an economic society that is built for pleasure and everything that you need. And that's called the mark of the beast. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about those who receive the seal of the living God. That's a very different seal, and it is the seal of Exodus. It is those who are following the chief cornerstone, and they're going to make their exodus. They're no longer participants here.
So I'm 100% on board with that route, Jason, and I do recommend it for those of y'all watching.
Yeah.
But since you just mentioned it, I think that could be absolutely fascinating. Could you mention of those who may have that mark of the beast, what that route and path and some more specifics to what you just mentioned would be like? Okay, well, first of all, there's a lot of theories as to what the mark of the beast is going to be. There's a lot of theories. I don't really entertain them. You've never heard me entertain in Archaix about all these different technological versions of what the mark of the beast are. They're gonna put a chip here. They're gonna do none of that. I don't believe any of that, because the world that the mark of the beast is imposed is not the world we live in today. We live in a technologically advanced society where the mark of the beast could be anything. But the society that's going to be after the Phoenix phenomenon of 2040,
which is going to be beaten down even to more primitivism after 2046. Yeah, we're not living in a technologically advanced utopia anymore. Now we're going back to the Dark Ages and Middle Ages. That's the type of period. So I don't think it's going to be something involving technology. It could be something as simple as a tattoo. It could be something as simple as what marks have been for thousands of years. And it was branding. Branding something on the hand or something on the forehead, which can never be removed. Because if you remove the brand, the evidence that the brand is still there. Yeah. See, in ancient Rome, slaves were branded in their right hand or in their forehead. It would be the brand itself literally identified that person in society as being owned by someone else. When like in the rebellion of Spartacus or when King Mithridates IV of Pontus, the Poison King, orchestrated the murder. Well, I can't even say murder because they literally deserved it. But 160,000 Romans were all killed in the same day without an army because King Mithridates of Pontus had secretly got all these people all throughout these Roman provinces to rise up on a single morning and just kill every Roman that you could see. And it was a deal. And it was such a shock to Rome that he became the most hunted man in the entire Roman Empire. And it is King Mithridates IV of Pontus. I have a video about him. But this man, when he did that, he freed so many people that were back there. They were able to escape into the Balkans. They were able to get away, but they could never take away from the fact that they had been former slaves, because even covering up the Roman seal for slave on their hands or on their forehead still left a burn scar, showing that they had been a slave. This is what I'm thinking the future is going to be. It's not going to be a technologically advanced future. It's going to be one where it's going to be one where, like, New York City is going to be looking like, damn, don't go there. You don't want to go there. All kind. You'll never come back. Right. Yeah, it's not going to be what you think at all.
Yeah. Man, tattoo removal has become a pretty big business, but you don't see any scar wide scale removal, not effectively like that anyway.
Listen, Tracy Duncan.
Yeah. Tracy.
I'm gonna put that on there because look, I don't know. You may be right, Tracy. If you remove the branding, wouldn't it heal because of the vapor canopy? You're absolutely correct. It is a vapor canopy world. I didn't make the connection. It might be correct. That's very interesting. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't be upsmarting me, Tracy.
Yeah, good looking out, Tracy. Okay, so with so many changes coming around and everything, and certainly I've heard you say this, that in the collective, an awakening of society on a bigger and bigger scale has definitely taken place, and absolutely in the last several years. So specifically with the rollout of COVID and 2020 and the election and all the controversy around that. But you have also stated, Jason, which I agree with, that also triggered a mass public awakening. And do you see that as like a form of like polarity or karmic balance, or when one thing happens?
Apocalypse means, it comes from the root words apocalyption, and it literally means to remove the covering. Mm-hmm. That's what COVID did. Mm-hmm. COVID removed the covering. People saw for themselves. If you have half an IQ point, you saw what was really going on. Really did. You just and if not at COVID, everybody was confused at first. But once they started forcing the jab on people started seeing it. I mean, even now, it's crazy. It is crazy. YouTube's former executive, have you seen the news? YouTube's former executive who was smashing on everybody for reporting vax damage has now died at age 56 of vax damage.
What?
Crazy. Yeah, it's all over Twitter. All over, showing pictures of her, video clips of her, talking about how she's not going to tolerate misinformation about the jab. Now she's gone. She's dead.
Yeah. Again, whenever you hear words like misinformation, when they label that.
She died of turbo cancer. Where'd that come from? Where'd that come from? Never even heard of turbo cancer until they started forcing that jab.
Almost like she was a professional athlete.
Yeah, man.
It's
crazy
on the court. Yeah, but could you speak to the subsequent awakening taking place, sort of in conjunction with those things, and how that's perhaps a balance of sorts, or just speak to that if you would, please.
Okay, well, first of all, the seals are not for the living dead. The breaking of the seals, each one is to reveal more and more remove more and more of the deceptive layerings of our reality. The breaking of the seals are for the individual souls who are going to be making their exodus. They're not for anybody else. That's why the living dead will never understand this information. They'll never put all these things together. They can't. It's not for them. The very beginning of the book of Revelation is about the unfolding of the future tribulation period. But before the tribulation can be revealed and what's going to happen and how things are going to be, systems are going to be corrected by the return of the chief cornerstone, before any of that can be done, the scroll has 7 seals. The breaking of any individual seal is not the revealing of the contents. You understand? You have to break all 7 seals before the contents of the revelation can really be known. The contents of the revelation is about the great tribulation and the return of the chief cornerstone. This is what the document is about. But before you can even unscroll the document, you have seals to break through. Every messenger, which is where the word angel came from, every messenger in the ancient world had to carry a container that was sealed. And often scrolls, they had a wax seal over sometimes multiple seals. If that seal was broken before it was given to the one that was meant to receive it, that messenger would die. Simple as that. They kill him. Yeah, they would kill him. And if the seal came undone before, the messenger had to return to the original and say, hey, sire, I'm sorry, but it got rough and I was writing, and one of the seal, I noticed when I checked the pack, one of the seals had come loose. But the king or the queen who sent the message out would see that the other 2 seals or the other seal was still intact, meaning there's no way the document could have been opened. So they would just reseal it, no problem. But if it was delivered with a seal broken, it was punishable by death. That's how important the contents were of the deal. But every seal had to be broken in order to unfurl the message, the scroll. In the book of Revelation, we have the tetramorph. The tetramorph is the one that is revealing the seals, the breaking, and each in the tetramorph, and a seal is broken, and a tetramorph, one of the heads of the tetramorph shifts on the throne of God and reveals to John, the witness, what's going to happen, what's going on. But the 7 seals are necessary before the real message. And apocalypse merely means to remove the covering. That's what the seals are. Each seal is removing the layers of deception that have bewitched the world. By the end of the 6th seal, everyone in the world who's going to wake up is going to be awake. They are now sealed with the seal of the living God. Everybody who is still blind was meant to be blind, and they're going to be going through this whole hellish great tribulation period. And everybody else is going to make their exodus. That's what the story of Enoch is about. Enoch went up to heaven and he was no more. But Enoch left behind an architectural structure. What is architectural structure? It is a structure that identifies departure. 2448 times 3 is 7344. 7344 is the entire historical timeline, 5239 BC to 2106, return of the chief cornerstone, which fulfills the monument of man. The monument of man is what? The number of those who are sealed. Where are they going to go? According to the structuring of the Great Pyramid and everything, the mathematics that is attached to it, they're not going anywhere but out of here. It is the structure of Exodus. This is what the metaphorical teachings of the Old Testament are about. The story of Exodus was about a people who were in a world they did not belong. And when that world was systematically destroyed in a series of 10 plagues, they were removed safely. And they not only were they removed, but they were given much reward and bounty for the evil they endured in the world that they were in.
Similar to what you say on occasion, Jason, that we are a sojourner. We are a traveler through this reality.
We're pilgrims.
Came here to have an experience and learn lessons.
Absolutely. 100%. I'm also of the opinion that no one needs to stress out about being able to interpret these things, being able to understand these things. The very fact that you're listening means you're already on that journey. But I am absolutely convinced that Tim, Jason, and anybody else we know who's listening to these things and processing them and understanding them didn't get to this point by any personal merit. If you're waking up, it's because you're already sealed by the living God. If you're waking up today, it's because something thought you worthy enough to wake you up. Everybody else isn't ready yet. They're going to live through these life sims another go around, maybe a couple hundred go arounds. I don't know.
Wow, so powerful. Well, again, breaking back to the etymology of the word, revelation, right? It's reveal. It's continuing to be revealed in stages. We're continuing the process of awakening. The fallacy, sometimes people are like, oh, I'm awake. Well, sometimes that may carry the mental idea a person has of, oh, I'm awake to all this stuff. Well, that doesn't mean you're done. That's just the beginning. And it's continued additional beginnings, more being revealed going through the path, like you just explained. Revelation, the breaking away of the seal, of which uncovers the truth, which continues more and more through each of the seals.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Very, very powerful.
I agree.
So many ways I could go here. To tie in kind of the age that we're in right now, this whole, and I know you've delivered some very powerful videos on AI and, Chat GPT. You broke it down where you ran it live and in real time. Take a look at that, guys, if you didn't see that in real time. But VR headsets, that's a big sort of push now.
Yes, it is.
Friends of mine are doing it. My son loves gaming, and he's not into the VR headsets, but it's certainly a big thing, and it's a growing thing, and they're really sort of trying to push it, making them basically free. And, I see that. I don't want anything that's going to potentially hijack my mind or the trajectory of how I view my own reality. And you also have spoken at your meetups, Jason, about where you foresee that going with work and identity. So if you could foresee what you see going on there and the future of that, please. VR headsets.
Well, I have theorized in the past, can't take it away, that Bill Gates and Microsoft is in tandem with other companies and maybe even the U.S. government or international companies, IT giants, that they're creating this metaverse world, this utopian that can be enjoyed in the alter reality. And I've also published information that I have found on the internet that companies are already employing people to work in this metaverse as opposed to in the real reality. And their paychecks come from the things they do inside this alternate reality. And they're building and they're trying to merge all these different VR game systems together to build one huge world. And that this was the actual plan is to get most of the elderly growing population, which is huge. The elderly population is massive, but to get them addicted to these VR systems, to get them to live in this alternate reality where they're no longer moving, they're no longer taking up space, they're no longer congesting our freeways and our highways and going out and doing all these things, because now your food, your medicines are all delivered to your door. the implementation of 15-minute cities goes in tandem with living in an alternate reality where you can do anything and be anywhere, and you can earn credits inside this metaverse that allow you to do more things. Areas of the metaverse will be locked. You'll be locked out of them, like brothels, prostitutes, escorts, doing things in the metaverse. You can't just do them just because it's a video game you want to do them, but you have to build up credits to do those things. And people start getting addicted to this lifestyle where they can do things legally in the metaverse that they can't do in real life. And not just the gaming systems, but all kinds of things, shopping in the metaverse. Imagine your avatar going through a super mall in the metaverse, and yet the purchases you make in the metaverse appear as boxes on your front porch in real life. A lot of these things are already being planned. All this to get people. Now, imagine when you have 30% of the world's population now living in a false reality you created, and they have now invested their real wealth. Real wealth has been translated into the metaverse. Real bank accounts have been moved into the metaverse. Gift cards, purchasing gift cards in the real world that can only be spent in the metaverse. Jobs that you have taken in the metaverse. Imagine stacking up all your assets and all your credit systems in the metaverse. Imagine now that you can do everything. You have built an avatar in the metaverse that can do great things. You're a 71-year-old female who is now in an avatar of a 26-year-old, and you can enjoy all the things because it's cerebral interface. You can even feel the pleasure of sex in the metaverse. All these things are done in this new false reality, and it can all be up and running within the next 10 years. Agenda 2030. 10 years from 2030 to 2040. Imagine 30% of the world's population, which is a massive amount of people, all interacting, all doing all this stuff. And then one of the seals breaks. When that seal breaks, the entire metaverse goes offline. Imagine what that would do to the human family, especially the 30,000 who had invested everything in it, built their alternate lives, and had done everything. Now they can't even access it. It's all lost. This is what I theorized in the past. I even theorized that some of the Great Tribulation, which is all programming, is actually done in an alternate reality, not in the one we're experiencing now. Think about it. The first seal wasn't an actual pandemic. It was just one that was broadcasted to be a pandemic. But we're all still here, majority of us. More people died from the jab than died from
the thing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if this breaking of the seals are psyops being unveiled, the second seal is as well. And we're going to see evidence of that. That these events aren't entirely actual. Many of them are scripted to get you to fear, to get you to be scared, to take peace from the earth, and to get the controllers to be able to enforce more legislation against us.
Right.
So
to control.
Exactly. So if the seals are all about psyops unfolding, which is interesting, the first seal, second seal, third seal, and fourth seal are the same as the first horseman, second horseman, third horseman, and fourth horseman. But we have a huge pattern break in the fifth seal. We have a period of peace in the fifth seal. After the four horsemen ride, the fifth seal is a period of peace, but it is an exchange, a dialogue in between the oversoul and the souls that are in the construct that have not been able to move forward to get new avatars because they're already ready. They're ready to make their exodus. They're not ready to go back, get put back into the loop in life sims. This is what the fifth seal is about. The fifth seal is the oversoul telling them, be patient, for you have just but a little season, a little time. That's it. Remember, I've told you guys, it's my theory that 1902 began the last days. And since 1902, every soul that has ever been in this construct that is living these life sims has been given, this is their final exodus. This is they're going into a place of quarantine if they're sealed. If they are slated for exodus, they're not coming back in these life sims. Since 1902, which remember the typhus epidemic, Bolshevik massacre and genocide of the Russian people, World War I, followed by World War II, followed by 5 more massive genocides in Asia and in Europe, all in that time. Then the Korean War, then the Vietnam War, massive amount of death in the last 138-year cycle. Massive amount of death since 1902. And I believe it's because now the wheat is being separated from the chaff. And the wheat is being sequestered. And the 5th seal shows the vault. The 5th seal is about all those souls that have been separated from all the rest. And the oversoul basically tells us to be patient. So we have a period after the breaking of the 4th seal, the riding of the 4th horseman. We have a period of peace and silence for a while until something happens that is not of human provenance. The 6th seal of the apocalypse has nothing to do with any actions of the elite, our controllers. It has everything to do with a judgment against them. Read the 6th seal. It's the Phoenix phenomenon. It's everything I've documented in all my research on the Phoenix phenomenon. It is the sun turns black as sackcloth of hair. The moon turns red as blood. Stars fall from the sky. A mighty earthquake shakes the world. And now we're told that the kings and the mighty of the world hide in the caves and the mountains. Where are they at? They're in the underworld. They're hiding because they know the Phoenix hunts them down.
And the dumbs,
they're in the dumbs. They're hiding. It's all in the 5th seal. It's all in the 6th seal. The return of the Phoenix has nothing to do with the 4 horsemen. The 4 horsemen are all actions of the controllers. The 5th horseman is the pattern break, where God talks to the souls of the righteous and tells them to be patient. The 6th seal is the Phoenix phenomenon is unleashed in the world, but it's the controllers now in the elite that are hiding in the caves and in the mountains. It's all there. And then the 7th seal again is a period of silence. This is the wake of the Phoenix. This is a period of silence and peace. Why? The controllers are gone. They're sealed in vaults in the underworld. They're no longer controlling the affairs on the surface. And the surface world has a break. The surface world has a break after 2040, all the way to 2046. It's a calm before the storm. It's 6.5 years between mid-May of 2040, Phoenix phenomenon, and during this time, the elite are all sealed in their vaults underground, and then the return of Nemesis X in November of 2046. 6.5 years is a pretty long period of time. But it's the surface world is now being rejuvenated, but it's in micro communities. Everything is small. Infrastructure's gone. Telecommunications gone. Internet's gone. Metaverse gone. Controllers, the elite, gone. All that. Now it's just people in the surface world just trying to make it. Then the Nemesis X object happens. And again, people are just trying to make it. But in this new world where people are trying to make it, it's like a weird type of Garden of Eden scenario, because the vapor canopy has come back. And within 1 year, the land itself begins to produce food. Insects grow larger, rodents grow larger, mammals grow larger, megafauna, marsupials grow larger. Fish become more abundant. Everything thrives in a vapor canopy under this ambient radiation, increased atmospheric pressure, this ultraviolet light. Everything thrives.
Like the California redwoods?
Yeah, well, blueberries and raspberries are all over the United States. Those little blackberries and raspberries are all over the United States. You can imagine in a vapor canopy, they'll be growing like weeds everywhere, and they'll be growing large. You can go down almost any interstate in Texas and go off the road a little bit. You're going to find blackberries and raspberries growing everywhere. We got them all over Texas.
Good too.
So you can live off of them, but you can live off a lot of things. All kinds of things are going to be growing fantastically. Imagine all the orchards that are abandoned during this period of time. Now they're growing wild. Just like in the pre-flood times, people were living off the land and they got all their nutrients, got everything. And the vapor canopy returns, food is going to be abundant. It's going to be everywhere. Not initially, but after about a year, it's going to sustain the population. And so will the increase in animal biology. But what's going to increase it even more is when strange things start happening in 2046. In November of 2046, the quickening begins. That's when all time is abbreviated. 20 years are removed from the final 60 years to 2106. How do I know this? Because it says the day, the night, the sun, the moon, the stars are all reduced by a third. That leaves precisely 66.6% of reality occurring. 33.3% of the timeline is removed from 2040 to 2106, the return of the chief cornerstone. 60-year period where 20 years are absolutely removed. So, because if that wasn't done according to the book of Revelation, no flesh would be saved. During the seven thunders. We still don't know what the seven thunders are. It even specifically states in the book of Revelation, we don't know what they are. But there's supposed to be some terrific judgments. But we do know what the seven bowls of God's wrath are, and we know what the seven trumpets are. The seven trumpets are the result of the appearance of the Nemesis X object. So it is after the seven seals and during the seven trumpets and seven thunders that the seven kings reappear, and they're subservient to an eighth. And that eighth is the king that began his rule before the flood, but was cut off. And his name is Abaddon, which we know of as Apollo, which is really interesting because ancient Arabic traditions say that a very wicked dynasty existed right before the flood, and it's called the Abad dynasty, A-B-A-D. You can't make this shit up. You just can't. It's crazy.
Way better than fiction. I feel like I could sit here and talk with you for a month, Jason.
You're going to talk to me for a month. You're going to feed me.
I'm good with that. All right, so you've released quite a number of prediction videos. Certainly, some of them have absolutely come true. You said always from the start Biden was going to be removed. Of course, that's happened. The knife attacks, many things, right? But the internet takedown / changeover that you've talked about, not the one in 2040 and beyond, but the closer one.
Well, I can tell you
to what you foresee there.
Listen, I'm not really sure that hasn't happened. Let me explain. The breaking of the first seal was 2020. And in 2020, there was just no AI. No AI marketing, no AI advertising. ChatGPT hadn't been released yet. All the sister companies, everything was still in embryonic state. It wasn't commercialized. But since 2021, what the hell happened to the internet? Google doesn't even produce all the searches it used to. I used to get all kinds of things prior to 2020. Prior to 2020, I could Google something and it would give me so many options. I could go to all these obscure websites. Now you can't find some of these awesome websites unless you have the actual URL. Can't find them.
It's all AI answers.
Yeah, what you get now, Google pulls up all the trash, pulls up all the trash, everything. It just pulls up everything. You have to really go deep. And sometimes you still can't find it anywhere in Google search results. Google has become absolute garbage if you're trying to do real research. You have to know exactly what you're looking for it to even pop up. So I'm thinking that with ChatGPT and open AI systems and all that, I'm thinking there kind of has been a takeover of the internet. I know Bing has taken over. I know this for a fact. I had to stop using Bing, period, because on 2 separate incidents, I have screenshot things that I used on the Bing server to pull up data, and it gave me false information, and I got called out on it, and I'll never do that again, because from the beginning of my channel, it was one thing I was telling you guys from the beginning, that the internet is going to lie to you. It was a disinformation engine from the beginning. from the beginning. And this is why I pull all my information out from old books and I photograph the pages so you guys can see what these old books are saying, because Google search results are going to pull up all kinds of misinformation and give you twisted versions of the actual reality. And Chat GPT is even going to give you false source materials. It's going to make up materials. And I prove that on my channel because I am a member of JSTOR website. I can go to the academic peer-reviewed materials. I can pull up the documents, and I saw that GPT lied. The periodicals exist. The authors are real, but they never said those things in those articles and in those volumes. It's all a lie. It just makes up shit. So
yeah, and that's something I just loved about what you shared from the first time I heard you share your message when it came into my experience, Jason, was that you've always taken original historical text, because again, it's the advancement of living in this age of the dumbing down of the population. We've now got a generation of adults in the workforce that have completely grown up on asking Siri or asking Google for every single answer. And they've never learned any critical thinking. They're taught don't question any narratives, right? The entire key to getting through, grade school and even college now is not actually able to produce anything. It's just regurgitating of what you're told and sticking it on a multiple choice test, and never learning to think about that or question the origins of it.
You're right. Absolutely.
So that's absolutely continued to take place and roll out. How we doing here, Warner?
Oh, I'm just looking at different stuff.
Okay. Yeah, we got any good stuff in the chat? A couple of big answers there. All right, so just like at the meetups, we got to throw out the moon questions for you, right?
Sure.
So, you talk about both the Russians and their space program, as well as throughout some other historical or references that the moon is a luminary. And you've also stated about how it's kind of to conceal perhaps a watch station from the Igigi or some other folks. Could you speak to each of those, please?
Okay. Well, first of all, for those who are not aware of this, in the traditions that we have concerning the moon, the oldest traditions, there are two bodies of tradition. The oldest myths and legends concerning the moon is that it's the older brother of the sun. It's older than the sun, but it's not. It's not at all. The reason this came to be a belief system is because of the collapse of the vapor canopy. When the vapor canopy collapsed, it revealed the sun. Prior to that, when the mesosphere was an ocean above, light diffusion kept anybody on the surface world looking up and seeing the sun. Instead, they saw a dark purple canopy during the daytime because the mesosphere clouded up smoky water, like mist in the daytime, because the sun above the vapor canopy actually created this effect and it diffused. But at nighttime, the sun wasn't there. And at nighttime, that mesosphere crystallized absolutely clear. So the people on the surface world actually thought they could reach up and touch the moon if they got to a high enough hill. And the stars looked like they were local. And they used to name and have conversations with the stars. These are in the legends. So it magnified, the mesosphere magnified the heavens at night. But in the daytime, it was a dark purple light. It was a cloud canopy called a vapor canopy, similar to what our astronomers today say that Venus has, a vapor canopy, which is supposed to be a twin to our world. I don't know. This is just the science. I haven't been to Venus. I don't know. But what I do know is that the only reason the moon was considered to be older was because the moon was seen during the entire vapor canopy period. When the vapor canopy collapsed, it was the day the sky fell. The day the sky fell is known as the Noahic flood, the great flood of the Bible. It's because the vapor canopy fell down. It collapsed and caused a bunch of flooding. So then the sun appeared to be born. This is why the ancient Mesoamerican calendars all are called this. The first sun was called the water sun. It was the first sun, and the second sun was when the giants were when the second sun died, the giant races of the giants were ended. And then the third sun was the fire sun, a great conflagration happened. And then the fourth sun was another type of flooding, and it was great wars. This is the Atlantis type period. Then the fifth sun is the one we're waiting for now. We are in the stone of the fifth sun. This is according to the ancient American models. There's a 22-ton Toltech relic, which shows this whole model of the stone of the fifth sun. Interestingly, in the middle is a doomsday glyph, an ancient Toltech doomsday glyph. And right below it, it shows a god appearing at the end of the calendar. And coming out of its mouth is a blade, not a tongue. A blade is coming out of this Toltec god's mouth. Really interesting is the Aztecs venerated the Toltecs as their predecessors, but they weren't really descended from them. How do we know this? The Toltecs are said by the Aztecs to have built all the pyramids. I can't even pronounce. Don't even give me a line. Don't even try to pronounce them. But in Mexico, all these pyramids, the Aztecs said that their forebears, the Toltecs, built all these before they left and disappeared, because the Toltecs were bearded. The Aztecs can't grow facial hair. It's the same reason why the Chinese called the ancient Caucasians that built the Zhang dynasty pyramids the dragon-faced ones, the dragon kings, because dragon face means you could grow a beard. So this 22-ton relic has a god appearing at the end of the timeline, and it shows the four suns, then the stone of the fifth sun. When the fifth sun dies, this deity appears. He's the end of the timeline. When he appears, a sword protrudes from his mouth. What do you have in the book of Revelation?
Fire sword.
Jesus returns on a white horse with a sword protruding out of his mouth. This is in the book of Revelation. At the end of the calendar, Armageddon, 2106 AD. This is in the book of Revelation. It says that Jesus is coming. I don't know if Jesus is coming or not. I believe it is metaphorical for the return of the chief cornerstone. Did the Christians adopt that terminology? Absolutely they did. But they did it from older Gnostic texts that knew well of the Shepherd of Hermas text, knew about the building of the Great Pyramid, knew what the Bin stone in Egypt actually represented. A God who is here to support the monument of man, and knew that the monument of man was actually the symbol of the phoenix. Because the Bin stone in ancient Egypt was in the city of Heliopolis. Heliopolis was built around a temple called the Mansion of the Phoenix. Every bit of this I put together on my channel and showed it. Every bit of this, whoever built the 22-ton relic called the Stone of the Fifth Sun, the Aztec calendar stone, knew this material. I've shown this too on my channel. In my book, Anunnaki Homeworld, I blow up the Stone of the Fifth Sun and the Doomsday Glyph, and I show you what's in it. And what you see is a perfect pyramid with a Doomsday Glyph, crossed bars, which specifically means the end of a cycle. It's the Aztec symbol for the end of a cycle. Underneath it is a pyramid. Then you have the end of a cycle, and then you have an eye that looks just like the eye on the American pyramid dollar bill, Anuit Coeptus. That's what you have. It's right there on the 22-ton stone. I've shown pictures of it. And right above that is the Doomsday Glyph, which comes down with two curls. It's every bit of it's right there. It's the Book of Revelation. It's the Aztec Toltec version. But it says the exact same thing. And it concerns the Phoenix phenomenon and the death of all these suns. The very first one being the water sun, because the vapor canopy collapsed. But the other traditions that are attached to the moon is that when the moon appeared, so did a strange race. Another race appeared in our world at the same time the moon appeared. Those are other traditions. I've cited those as well.
Man, fascinating. Thank you. Since you spoke about the multiple suns, Jason, again, when we were kids, a lot of us, the sun was, it was orange, right? Yellowish. And today we've got this white something in the sky. What's going on with that? Do you believe that's a potential fake sun that China or somebody else may have put out, or is it a changing in the atmosphere. What's your take on that?
Okay, describe that again.
Well, the sun, like when we were kids, it was, how did you always color it with your crayons and stuff? Yellow, orange.
Yeah.
That sun is absolutely not that color anymore. It's white.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is. Now, what I don't know is I don't know if something in our atmosphere has changed to make that coloring happen, or if the sun itself has changed color. I just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know, because I do agree though that the sun has, somebody says it has an LED tint to it.
Yeah, it does. I'm looking up at the white light at the ceiling actually, as I was saying.
I'm convinced that the sun is local.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be local. I mean, we have too many historical incidents of the sun of the sun being recorded to behave in a certain way, which is absolutely impossible if without destroying our world. There is no way the sun can stop moving and then go in the other direction without our entire surface world being ripped apart in tidal forces. If the model that NASA has given us is true.
93 million.
Now, if the sun is local, like the flat earthers talk about, we don't have any problem with that. The sun can stop moving and go in another direction, and it's not going to change the surface topography.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. Right. This is the model I would have to agree with. I would have to agree that in a simulation, all simulated holographies have to begin with a flat plane. Mm-hmm. Then curvature is built into it. Mm-hmm. The final result being that the observer is within a torus field. Mm-hmm. You understand? Mm-hmm. And the torus field prime meridian would be the flat plane. Mm-hmm. Then the torus field acts like a magnet going the north into its southern antipode. Mm-hmm. So but that's all simulated. It's all simulated. So mm-hmm. the sun would not be an object under this model. It would be a phenomenon. Mm-hmm. There's a distinction here. Mm-hmm. So you're familiar with the Fatima miracle, right? 1917. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no way 60,000 people saw the sun actually stop moving across the sky, change size, change color, then plummet to the horizon, mm-hmm. and then like 7 seconds later come back up slowly, but within minutes be back into its original position. There's no way that happened. 60,000 people saw it though. Mm-hmm. So for 60,000 observers to see it, but the rest of the world didn't see it, means the sun must be local. It must be a local observer-dependent phenomenon. Because if it wasn't local, that means it wouldn't have just happened over Portugal. It would have happened over Italy. It would have happened over the Crimea. It would have happened over Russia. It would have happened over the UK. The entire hemisphere would have seen that. Right. It also means that those of us on the opposite side of the world would have seen the sun come up at nighttime. And that never happened in 1917. So this tells me, just like all the weird things that happened in the 1800s that I've documented, that where whole cities recorded the sun doing all kinds of weird things, but no other cities 50 and 60 miles away saw that. So the sun must be a local phenomenon, and it must be observer-dependent phenomenon.
Right, kind of like the Schrodinger's cat, the double slit.
Yes, it can only happen in a simulated context. It cannot happen in a real reality. Mm-hmm. Just can't.
Right, and as you've made very clear, you're not a flat earther, but you're on board with the flat plane, absolutely. But yeah, like the way that the grooves on a vinyl record, spin.
Yeah.
You see the sun kind of move, and then it gets on the closer grooves. And then as the seasons change, it works its way to the further out grooves. That makes some sense in that model that you just.
Somebody's saying, you should see the closing ceremony at the Olympics. Apollo Helios is the main character, plus the band that sings called the Phoenix. Wow,
nice. Represent.
Listen, I told you guys. The elite do not give a damn about us knowing these things. They don't care. We're on a program. This has happened multiple times. Yeah, once I divorce myself from the Judeo-Christian interpretation of the Book of Revelation and the events that are happening in the world, everything makes sense. Once I understood that the whole Jewish calendar, I got a video about it. The Jewish calendar is absolutely fake. Yeah. Once I understood how they invented the zodiac to throw people off, and I show all my sources, man, when the zodiac's not even old, man, everything makes sense. The Judeo-Christian interpretation of our reality gets you to believing in all kinds of things. You'll follow rabbit holes that go nowhere, and it's all by design. But what's staring us in the face, I don't know what book, I can't find it right now, but what's staring us in the face is we have this massive wealth of Greek mythology that's never really made sense to us. Some of these stories are ridiculous, but in light of current events, now they're all making sense. Now we're understanding exactly this right here is a cipher. Greek mythology provides us. Remember the Phoenix phenomenon, the legend of Perseus, Medusa, every bit of it makes sense in the context of the Phoenix phenomenon. But in and of itself, these are just really ridiculous stories. And you would think they're like so many other ridiculous stories around the world, but they're not. They're not. Now we have to really go in depth and study everything we know from the mythological record about Apollo and all his associations in Greek mythology, because this is the script the controllers are operating on. So it's so easy to see now.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like the story of Troy, right? You know, people thought that was fiction and what have you, and myth. They call old
Heinrich Schliemann found the real Troy, the ruins of Troy.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody thought it was BS until he found the actual ruins.
Yeah, he actually read the story for his clues to find it. Too. Yeah, you could do several videos, I'm sure, off of that. It's fascinating. You know, I see we're coming up on 3 hours. Probably don't want to go too much longer, you know, but
yeah, I have a full recording of the opening ceremony for these Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that the same individual who sent me the opening ceremony is recording it to send me the closing ceremony. And yes, I will do a full decode. The next decode you're going to have on the Olympic ceremonies is one that I have to do because it has everything to do with the 2012 Olympics. 2012 Olympics were basically giving us the template, and it's all about the Phoenix phenomenon. It's just, it's not even a mystery to me. It's not even amazing to me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't. You know, Friedrich Nietzsche said it best. You know, when a matter becomes clear, it ceases to concern us. And that's where I'm at. I see these things, I document them, I get them all. And by the time I actually do the video about it, it's like I've lost the fervor. I've already moved on mentally to something else, some new discovery, because I'm already there.
Yeah.
So
it's like after being in Archaix for a couple of years, you know, going back to first grade truther stuff.
It sucks.
Yeah. So try to stay humble and compassionate, right?
I used to get comments like a year ago on my channel.
Uh-huh.
I'd see the comment every once in a while. Somebody just telling me, Jason, you ruined me. I can't. Yeah.
How dare you wake me up?
Yeah. You ruined me. I can't do nothing. Listen to you now.
Yeah.
Now there's a lot of people that have good things to say. There's no doubt. It's just, it's I'm anal retentive about how I get my data and how I get my information and how it's presented. I'm just for those who don't know, I mean, you guys know there's an Archaix team, but they help me with my merchandise. They help me with my marketing. They help me do things. But when it comes to the content on my channel, 100%, every video clip, all the music, everything, 100% of all 700 or something of my videos were done by me. I do not take help. None of the Archaix team has anything to do with this. Big John takes pictures in here. Big John finds out news events that are interesting for Archaix TV and all that. But as far as I feel that I'm responsible for the education of other people, so I cannot allow for anything but me to be in my video presentations when I'm giving you guys data dumps. Now, when I'm doing things like this, it's different because I'm podcasting. This is podcast. Well, but yeah, I don't have any help. I don't have anybody helping me make these videos. They're all uploaded by me. Everything's done by me, 100%.
Outstanding work, Jason, once again. So I think maybe a good little mini chapter to close on. There's so many great resources for just talking about and digesting things related to Archaix and some of the adjunct subjects to what you've covered, Jason. You know, the Archaix Aaron's group on Facebook, I'm super active and love. Dino's done such a great job with that, and the other people that help with that.
Dino's great.
He is fantastic. Great, of course, you're on X, formerly Twitter, and that's unrestrained currently with the lack of censorship, which is awesome. I've started getting back on there again for those reasons, among others. But the Archaix Academy, right? You talked about this a little bit at the beginning, and I jumped on board that sort of early bird promotion that you guys were running for, of course, the first 20 Courses have been released with the supplemental materials with that. I think it would be absolutely awesome, and this may be in the works or your plans, but I just sort of want to put this into the field a little bit, that I think it would be absolutely awesome to have a discussion group of sorts for the people that are in the academy.
Oh, no doubt. It's already in the works. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's in the works.
Yeah, because you know, as I said at the beginning of the video here today, you know, in addition to your life-changing material is the fellowship, is the community with the fellow errants, and other people bring things from other parts of the country, people from overseas, England, Australia, and all these other places, you know, and they have their perspectives, you know, to be able to digest that and connect with people on so many different levels has just been absolutely life-changing for me. So extremely grateful for it, thankful for it, and absolutely looking forward to what's to come.
Awesome, man. Well said. Well said.
Yeah, break free.
I don't know if you've been hearing it, but my stomach's been growling. Oh, man.
I think mine's starting to chime in with you too there, Jason. It's been an honor. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. So I'm going to do a short video that was absolutely unanticipated. I have to see if I can find the copyrights. I will purchase the copyrights for a song. But there's a song in country music that I was listening to this morning, and I've heard this song hundreds of times in my life. It's a classic country. It's not new country. It's old country, like 40 years ago. And I was listening to it, and my awareness just reached out and it started processing what the words were. I had to go back and listen to it. And I stopped what I was doing this morning. I sat down and just listened to it. I was like, oh my God. A country song from 40 years ago by Willie Nelson absolutely told us we're in a construct and we're living life sims and just enjoy it. Every bit of it's in here in the song. I'm like, what? So I'm thinking, nah, man, it's just coincidence he said that. And then the next stanza, and then the next stanza, then the lyrics, the chorus. I'm like, no way, man. Maybe I'm going too far. So I listened to the whole song because Willie Nelson's singing with a couple other guys. I'm not going to reveal it until I do the video.
Okay.
But I said, whoa, I've been listening to this song all my life. And these three guys gave us the game. And they did it in a 40-year-old country western song.
Okay, because there's no accidents. I have to jump in and throw in a very small personal story. My dad grew up in a little town called Cramples Gap, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
He's passed away for many years now, but he was just a couple years of difference in age from Willie, and they actually played high school football against each other, face to face. And when my dad was dating my mom back in the 60s, before he was famous, my dad used to take my mom to go see Willie Nelson perform performances in downtown Houston when he had short hair and wore suits and ties. And they were on a first name basis. And I was raised on Waylon and Willie and the boys. Absolutely.
Dude, I was so in shock.
Love it.
I'm so in shock that I'm about to do a search tonight. I'm going to go do a search for the copyrights. I'll pay whatever I got to pay so I can play that song.
Pay him in weed.
And I'm going to play that song and show the lyrics on the screen at the same time. It's amazing.
Awesome.
It's amazing. And if I can't find the copyrights, if I can't get the copyrights to do it, I'm just going to share the lyrics, and you guys can listen to the song yourself. Nice. It just blew my mind. But guys, that wraps it up. It's been over 3 hours. I'm hungry as hell.
Yeah.
And tomorrow, it's all about Paul Cook. It's all about Martin Leakey. It's all about autodidactic. All three of them joining me right here on Archaix. Like I said, this is just the beginning. We got a lot of podcasts, and some of you who have reached out to me that want to be on my show, you're on my list. I just haven't had the time to respond to you yet. But yeah, it's going down. It's not going to stop my original content. I still got decodes to do. I still got more.
500 plus videos.
I still got. Yeah, I always got 500 videos in me.
That's right, buddy.
Man, I got so many books from the Asheville trip that you're not going to believe the things I'm going to be sharing with you. But there's only one of me, so I can only do it sequentially. But it's coming. Believe me, we got some awesome material coming, guys. But right now, I'm not really worried about you. I'm worried about my stomach. I'm hungry.
Feed the machine.
Got to feed the machine.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to hit that awesome outro. Yeah. And I love you guys.
Love you guys. Peace out, Aaron fan.